Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, we're doing sort of a Truth Seeker special event. I'm happy that there's so many people already joining us because tonight we will have legendary television producer and film producer, Bob Kiviat. Bob is a television writer and producer. And when I was growing up, I didn't know it at the time, but everything that I liked on television was produced or had some involvement from Mr. Kiviat. He's produced 11 specials for 20th Century Fox Television. Of course, the most famous of which, however, is the Alien Autopsy. He's also appeared as a guest expert on Coast to Coast AM and many other shows. Bob Kiviat is a big part of my childhood, though I didn't know it at the time. Growing up, I have fond memories of watching things like Alien Autopsy and Unsolved Mysteries. And interesting to me that years later, I would get to interview him. He's been here before as well. But the reason that we're bringing him here tonight is because I have a very special interest in something that many people seem to be ignoring, and that is speaking to veterans of the paranormal world about the recent claims made by UFO whistleblower Dave Grusch. And many of the claims that Grusch has made recently align perfectly with the claims that were made in the alien autopsy hoax. I think it's extremely important that we both recognize and seek the guidance and maybe the opinions of people who have been through all of these claims before and how they panned out. We recently did a show on Mr. Kevin Randall's thoughts on the Dave Grusch controversy. I think it's important that we realize that the paranormal world is filled with an incredible history of people making fantastical claims and not quite having the evidence to back up those claims, or years later, in some cases, we find out that the so-called evidence that they had is not what they purported it to be originally. We see this in cases like the Roswell slides hoax and other hoaxes. But Bob has produced so much television about these topics. He has seen so many different people make very similar claims. So I thought it would be really an important moment to bring him here and, to be quite honest, for me to quite grill him about what he thinks about the recent claims. So joining us tonight is my very special guest, Mr. Bob Kiviat. Welcome, Mr. Kiviat.
Steve, always great to be back with you. And I think you set it up real perfectly. And, you know, the word paranormal, just so you know that you use it a couple of times, that's one of those things in my career that I've tried to shy away from.
Yeah, it's a catch-all. I shouldn't use that word.
But I think it's very important you brought that up, because years ago, maybe a year before the alien autopsy came across my life and desk and all that, I was working for another show called Encounters on Fox. Fox brought me in from Unsolved Mysteries. It was sort of my little segue in. And there was a show called Encounters. And to me, it was filled with a lot of not believable stuff. So they brought me in to try to shore up the ship, bring in credible stuff. I remember walking into a room and there was a psychic trying to pull a ghost out of someone's body. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And there was actually, I asked the camera crew, why are you filming this? What are you filming? And they went, because I was coordinating producer at the time, like kind of overseeing. And I kind of shut it down. I said, this is ridiculous, right? A psychic pulling a ghost out of someone's chest invisibly, you know, and based on who say so? The psychics? So the word paranormal usually does not conflate with evidence, courtroom, journalism. These are factual things, Steve. These are things that you present evidence. A jury or a judge or even the public, if you're a journalist, makes decisions based on what you presented. I'm going to always hark back to the New York Times story in 2017, one of the worst reported stories ever. Whoever
I agree,
whoever Cooper is, whatever Leslie Kean thought she was doing, it's a debacle. It's a debacle that brings us right to what your opening was, the alien autopsy. There are people that have been milking the alien autopsy from the periphery even
There's a guy he was at the CIA years ago. His name was Kit Green. He had the audacity to come out a couple of years ago and claim the alien autopsy might be real and all that. Well, there might be a real alien autopsy somewhere. There may well be on film. There may well be crashed alien saucers and whatnot, but nothing that this guy Grusch has presented, not one scintilla of evidence, is something you could bring into any courtroom, any journalistic theater, of any kind. And then you end up with this ridiculous claim that he can't divulge who he's talking to. Then you got a character named Schellenberger. Whoever the character is, this guy shows up out of nowhere, goes on unbelievably, a podcast with a former skeptic named Michael Shermer. And Michael Shermer buys this guy's research, hook, line, and sinker. Like, you talk to people who knew Dave Grusch is telling the truth. You talk to people that were in the intelligence community.
Yeah, I thought that Shermer just failed miserably in that interview. He just kind of accepted it because he couldn't dispute it, because these are just things that
I'll go a step further, Steve. Mike Shermer needs to turn around now and become a clickbait guy, because he got to survive in this world of clickbait.
It's attention-based. It's an attention-based economy, Bob. That's the more attention, the more your economy is good. The less attention, and Schellenberger's kind of like he's kind of like a failed indie journalist that jumped onto the UFO topic because he thought there was money there.
Time out. As a guy who wrote for cover articles for Omni magazine, who wrote for major publications in New York, where you're judged by your journalism, I take great umbrage that a guy like Schellenberger, when you go to his Wikipedia page, you are bleary. You don't even know what you're looking at. Not a journalist, totally opinionated, completely coming from a set of, ideas that are not, balanced or, objective.
And like an agenda-driven pieces is what he writes, and this is all real.
And by the way, let's say it like it is for a guy 20-something more years on this thing called UFOs and Unexplained for network television. Who the blank is he in the first place? Where did he come from?
I guess.
And he's gonna wait. We'll get to that. I think we have an answer on that. It's not rhetorical. We do know where that came from, and we'll get to that if you want.
Yeah, but I want to get your general opinion. So we have this person, and when a lot of the true believers are conflating things, and they're conflating his background being real with him being absolutely 100% telling the truth about all of this, that's a problem. They've also conflated the fact that the intelligence community inspector general called his claims credible and urgent, but he was the intelligence community inspector general was talking about his claims of some sort of retaliation, maybe urgent or credible. And because of the whistleblower new laws, they have to take every complaint as urgent and credible and fully investigate. It doesn't mean that the IG was saying that his alien claims were urgent and credible. There's a lot of language that I noticed. There's a lot of play on language that is taking place that I think is extremely deceptive. But when you think back to the original claims made about alien autopsy, these are a lot of the exact same claims, right? We have alien bodies, we have alien crashes, we recovered materials, we've recovered bodies. I've been here before.
Not really.
As a child, like, a young child watching alien autopsy going, it's real, arguing with my friends, I'm
going to repeat what I said in an earlier show, and then we'll get right into the bigger gist here. When I did alien autopsy, I told many people I would never have touched the Roswell case ever, if indeed there was not some kind of evidence, film footage, something presented. There were rumors for years at Disney. I knew people at Disney, Walt Disney Company. The rumors were that a guy named Ward Kimball, who was an animator, and a few other people at Disney were shown proof positive evidence by the government of alien crash bodies, pilots, if you will, like Grusch claims. Pilots. What does pilots mean anyway? But the idea that you had a crash saucer, that you had alien beings
that you had UFO footage. This supposedly was given to Disney's hierarchy by the government. This is the rumor for years. They were trying to get the message out to the American people that we know we're not alone, and try to figure out a way, whether it was before the Brookings Institution did their study, which was in the 60s, which was the conclusion was, if we ever do get evidence of an alien or proof of extraterrestrial life on Earth or in space, then we're not going to tell the American public too easily, because maybe we'll freak out, the world will freak out, economies will be ruined, religious issues will be brought up. So based on all of that, it was almost easy to understand that if Disney was brought this material, and ironically, the story is that they brought the government was going to let Disney tell the story about where aliens are here. They visited Earth. It became a comedy at the end. Somehow the government decided to not let Disney have the material. And
I heard this I heard this story.
Disney people for years. This guy, Ward Kimball, who drew a lot of the people that our children, me, you, all the characters Disney has, all the famous characters.
Yeah, he was the person who designed a lot of those characters.
Ward Kimball was that impactful to society. So when he went around to UFO conferences or wherever he spoke before he died and said, hey, this happened, nobody believed him. And I was one of those who went, look, show me, prove it to me, right? So I hear the story that there's this guy in England and he claims he's got footage of an alien. And I'm like, what? So like a journalist, you just track it down. You find out who had it, who claims it. It's a story that we're going to possibly tell properly and fully in a brand new series that a company has approached me. They want to do a very major series. I will have to say maybe a little bigger than I might do on my own, because I'm kind of been there, done that. But the story in the complexities, and these people are ready to tell the full complexities, are astonishing. When you hear the possible things that aren't true or that might be true, whoever put this hoax together, it's one for the ages. And that's why we're hearing about it now. So when Grusch goes public and he talks about aliens and alien crash vehicles or given vehicles and pilots, everybody thinks about the alien autopsy, because it had the one thing about the Roswell case, allegedly, film evidence.
The thing that they were always missing, which was real evidence that this is all true and this all really happened. Right. The bodies, the crash, the retrieval, And do you recall, because I was thinking about the New York Times article that you mentioned, it's taken 5 years for that narrative to come crashing down. It took a while for the alien autopsy to be fully debunked and for us to know the truth that it was all, an elaborate hoax, right?
It's a masterpiece in playing with the media by these individuals. They found it. I don't know how. Give him talent, gift of gab, salesmanship, whatever. They convinced Warner Brothers in 2006, UK version of Warner Brothers, a film company, to make a movie about the alien autopsy saga. And it's filled with, look, I feel it's a compliment here. They had Bull Pullman playing me in a way, this older kind of.
I remember. I thought that was an enjoyable movie, though, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it.
They even have Jonathan Frakes, my host. My show is playing in front of a bunch of English viewers, and sitting on the couch. And it's a very entertaining story. Mostly bullshit. Yeah. But the parts that aren't bullshit are still fascinating. We can talk about those. Now, Alien Autopsy has one thing that I think every hoax out there has had that's worthwhile. The Hitler Diaries, which Ray Santilli says in my Fox specials, it's not like the Hitler Diaries, because my director asked him, is it like, because I told Ray, we're going to ask you point blank, is it like the Hitler Diaries? Hitler Diaries was a hoax allegedly written by, Hitler's diaries by Hitler. And it turned out to be not his handwriting after all. It wasn't Hitler, and it was all fake. He played this so much more cleverly than those people. He promised me and Fox we would meet the cameraman.
the allegedly 80-something-year-old guy living in Florida at the time.
And then they hired a homeless man to play the cameraman.
Well,
right?
hold on. There's two different people. There's in the movie Alien Autopsy in England, they made this movie. They have a famous actor named Orson Bean playing the cameraman fraud that Gary Shewfield and Ray Santilli concocted and tried to convince me and the Fox network that this was the real cameraman. I wrote 25 questions for this guy. He comes back and they deliver. And the story, how he delivered the tape to me of the cameraman interviewing, being interviewed by himself, like reading my questions and answering on a video feed, it's to die for. When people see that story properly played out, hopefully by the company I'm sort of maybe pacting with, I got to tell you, it's an unreal story.
I think this would make, given the number of like Netflix streaming, mini series and things, the whole story would be amazing to hear the whole story of like.
Netflix picked up Alien Autopsy like in 2017, and it was extremely popular. I mean, it doesn't die. It does not.
Yeah,
die.
Even after all these years, yeah.
So I have no doubt that Netflix or Hulu or another company, they're going to want to do this probably either with this company or maybe me. But I would really like it to be with other company because it frees me up to do the bigger job, which is the Ufolotics show. And the Ufolotics feature documentary that I'm working on is going to lay bare who the fraudsters were, how the New York Times got bamboozled, how far back this goes to Harry Reid, the former Senator Majority Leader and Senator from Nevada, being completely taken in by George Knapp and the Area 51 story, and somehow being, again, approached and I believe bamboozled himself by a guy from the DIA named Lukaski, who wrote a book announcing it 2 years ago, how they made up the entire ATIP word. There was no ATIP. It's all bullshit. Elizondo is a complete fraud, completely made up in terms of what he did or did not do. He never ran any program of UFOs. There wasn't even a program of UFOs. It was a program funded by a couple of senators who got into the black budget kind of program, funneled $22 million to good old Bob Bigelow, because good old Lukaski at the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, thought there might be something intriguing to study at Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch is the test study, whatever, that Bob Bigelow invested in, and he wanted to get people to treat it seriously. So when Lukaski came
if somebody was going to give me $22 million to study my own ranch.
Of course, great, right?
Yeah. There's various stories of people that worked for him, like getting drunk and faxing him fake stories about stuff.
Yeah.
Because
then they wrote a bunch of nonsense papers through Hal Puthoff and company. And by the way, we believe, and that we're just looking into this, we'll get back to the alien autopsy mirroring and connections here. But when you look at what's going on with that New York Times story, going out to that movie called The Phenomenon, which needs to be basically remade. I mean, a lot of the things in that movie are not accurate, not true. Yeah. And so one has to wonder why Chris Mellon from the Mellon family would be kind of pushing all this stuff. Why is Mellon involved? Why would he be involved in the TTSA? By the way, TTSA organization, whatever they're called, they're going to be looked into for sure as a Regulation A+ stock scheme, likely to be possibly prosecuted in the near future. I believe that. So
I've heard many people say that. I don't understand some of the things with that. Like, I don't understand how you can promise people a spaceship while you're soliciting investor donations, and then you don't deliver anything. Yeah. How you can tell them, oh, this guy that works with us, he ran the Pentagon $22 million UFO program while you're soliciting investor money. And then it turns out he didn't do any of that. And it was unfunded. It wasn't a real program. It was an activity.
He lied to his
did it in spare time. Yeah.
This guy Elizondo looked in the front of the camera at CNN, whoever else he was talking to, and lied through his teeth. He never worked for any government UFO program. He had some relationship, as it appears, with Bass, Bigelow's company, Hal Puthoff, possibly a few other people. There is absolutely no evidence at all
that this guy ran anything, which of course was confirmed by Sue Goff over at the Pentagon. For me, like back in 2018, why the regular media continues to play this card like there's a great story here. But if Grusch or other people are the end of that scam, if you will, it does not surprise me, because the big hook, the New York Times writer, we'll call him Blumenthal, the one who was credited most, he was trying to claim that Bigelow has these, places to store alien wrecks, alien bodies.
Yeah, I remember
the New York
that.
Times, the editorial board of the New York Times, and I'm from New York, read New York papers every day until I was 30, until I moved to LA. Let me tell you something. It's egregious. They need to retract the story. They need to do the right thing for journalism in general. And all it takes is this. We were doing a clickbait piece for our online site. It did very well. We decided to sneak it onto the front page of the Sunday paper that weekend with a tiny little column, tiny, different headline. Like they snuck it on there, like, maybe we'll continue. It's egregious because I'm a journalist.
It's very deceptive, yeah.
I'm a
The
student
whole
of
thing was
journalism.
deceptive.
Yeah.
The
I got
whole
my
thing was
degree in
completely
this.
deceptive. The whole thing was very deceptive from the start. And what troubles me, and I'm getting a lot of attacks for this, but I established that this Grusch has direct connections to many of the TTSA people.
Exactly.
That's directly established. We found out that he was meeting with Canadian members of Parliament on the week of May 15th. Nobody else had that story. I broke it. He was meeting with Gary Nolan and Ross Coulthart with Canadian members of Parliament. Coulthart wasn't involved directly with TTSA, but Gary Nolan was. And then we find out that Eric Davis is also connected to him.
If we don't do the full alien autopsy in my own productions, and it is done by this other company, which I'm kind of hoping for, it kind of frees me up to worry about other things and let them do their job with me helping, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt that what you said is utterly true. Whoever Grusch is, he's tied to these TTSA people, roughly, could be informally, but it's the continuation of building falsehoods about what is known to be true about UFOs and recovered craft or beings or whatever. And it's a continuation, we believe, and this is what we'll say in my Ufologics feature doc, that I really believe it was all done to take advantage of the popularity of UFOs. This UAP, drop that bullshit right now.
That's the CIA word, yeah.
Is nonsense. Nobody buys it. Jimmy Kimmel didn't buy it when Hillary Clinton said it that day. He doesn't buy it now. Nobody buys it. We all know what UFOs mean. When you say UAP, you're trying to bring it into some other kind of scientific mumbo jumbo. It's nonsense. The public is smarter than that. We all know there's a lot of UFO, evidence mystery out there. Steve, I'm putting together a possible series that might be called the 100 Best UFO Video Hotspots. We are going to show 100 videos, 70 of which I've shown on my Fox Network specials, UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape 1 and 2. By the way, collectively seen by more viewers than Alien Autopsy, close to 1 billion people combined.
Yeah, I remember that series. That was
in these specials, we
popular,
did. Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that. Up until 2000 or so, we amassed videos shot by everyday people, NASA from space, a potpourri of sources, all verified, unimpeachable in many ways. And these videos show craft, structured craft, gigantic, some of them. One thing over a kibbutz in Israel looks like a freaking building in space, in the sky, shot by 2 different cameramen.
Yeah, I remember that footage. I remember that whole series. What did you have? Was there 2 or 3 of them? There was like
several. There were 2 shows, UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape, 1 and 2. Netflix picked them up in 2017 with Alien Autopsy. So they took essentially my UFO alien package, and they loved that because they also saw my previous 2015 show, Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed, which, by the way, Steve, I'm wearing this shirt today for a reason. This shows Buzz Aldrin getting eaten by Sharknado. And that's what happened. New York, the Sci-Fi Channel decided in 2015, 14, 15, they were going to put on my show, Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed, which shows bona fide photos from NASA's archive that Buzz Aldrin wouldn't want to look at. The late Edgar Mitchell didn't want to look at, but said there is evidence, especially Edgar Mitchell, that we found things on the moon that might be alien. And Buzz Aldrin says, don't bother looking at our moon, Bob. Let's look at the moon near Mars called Phobos. There's a monolith there. Someone thinks that a scientist thinks that's artificial. That's what we should be looking at for going to Mars. So Buzz tried to move the story. We don't have aliens on our moon. We might have aliens on the moon by Mars. So by association, he's sort of saying the alien connection to moons and to what we may find in space, that's real. Buzz is a tough interview, by the way. So if anybody wants to see that show, we're trying to bring that back because we know people in America want to see that. We're going to be going to the moon in 2 years now. They're sending, I think, 2 male astronauts, if not 3.
Well, they say that, but they always cancel plans. We've been trying to get back to the moon for like 50 years now.
This won't be canceled. This will not.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know somebody at NASA who told me no, Stephen. It's a go. It's all a go. They've got the funding. They've got the vehicles now. Finally got the vehicles. So
yeah, but now we also have the Orion spacecraft, which apparently is the only one ever to go through the Van Allen belt. That's crazy because we sent astronauts on many missions, 2000, the missions from Apollo 11, 12, 13 didn't land, 14, 15, 16, and 17 did land. So what are they talking about, So there's so many mysteries about NASA.
Yeah. And I don't trust NASA. I don't trust them to tell us the truth. They have got those 2 channels and they do a lot of shady stuff. And there's various reports of airbrushing photos. And, I don't trust them to tell us the truth.
Yeah, we have countries that all want to go to the moon. I mean, we're not going to be able to hide the moon. So I got a phone call today from a very well-known and prominent former television executive. And he's sort of an associate of mine. And he called me up and he said, Bob, it's possible we might be seeing a lot more information coming out than we've seen already, like this Grusch guy. And possibly, I think he said more definitely, he thought, that we're going to be told soon that aliens are a threat to us. This is a
threat narrative. Yeah.
This is what these grifters want to convince a very intelligent guy like this, which he is, that we might have. There's no reason to believe anything right now that the only reason we believe, I'll say it this way, that there's any connection between UFO sightings and evil, demonic, or whatever you want to talk about that Harry Reid was talking about before he died. The only thing we have to pin that on is Lakatsky, that DIA guy, looking at Skinwalker Ranch, and we'll get into this in our documentary, Ufologics, looking at Skinwalker Ranch only, this little property where allegedly they see UFOs, Bigfoot, beaver creatures, gigantic, God knows what, coming through portals, whatever. The stories are that people would leave the ranch and head home. Even Bob Bigelow had
they took the poltergeist with them.
And poltergeist would follow them home, meaning there are aliens there, there are demonic forces there. There's no reason to believe any evidence at all that UFOs from another planet, another dimension, the future, whatever, have caused any damage to any human being, whether it be cellular or any other kind. Gary Nolan, let's talk about him. I contacted his university, Stanford.
So did I. Yeah.
I want interviews with him. I want interviews with his superiors, his dean. I've been talking to a very, very thoughtful fellow professor there at Stanford. She's great. I'll tell you more about her maybe later. She recognizes what I'm talking about. Gary needs to step up now and say what the hell he's doing. He is a grifter. He goes around to people and tries to convince them that there are UFOs may have affected you. If you're a witness, you may have seen something. You did, and your body's affected. But there's other people around Gary who are telling people for lots of money, we can pull those things out of you or work with it. Sounds a lot like Scientology to me. And yes, you have a Scientology connection between Hal Puthoff,
yeah,
and all of them. So I'm telling you right now, whoever Grusch is involved, in my opinion. As a journalist, I reserve the right to correct it. But I believe we're going to find out that Grusch bought a whole line, kit and caboodle, bullshit round of evidence and stories from the people I'm referring to.
Yeah, the TTSA crowd. We've got them directly connected to Lou Elizondo and Gary Nolan and Eric Davis, who's directly connected, who works for Hal Puthoff. So, you know, and interesting that there's, I think what I'm very disappointed about is that there are a number of people who haven't woken up from being lied to and originally with the TTSA thing, or they make excuses for that.
They can't believe it. It's very hard for people to believe.
But this is the same. You're right. I'm leaning towards thinking that this is a continuation of the same sort of operation, for-profit driven thing. And
completely.
I want to always say, though, that it's not that I don't believe that there may be some great mysteries involving crashes or even alien crashes. But I don't believe these people who are all pushing this story. I don't believe them because they have all lied to us before, provably.
Did you see the interview? Did you see the way his interview with whoever Coulthard is?
Oh, he's a disgraced Australian journalist.
This is a buffoon.
Yeah.
It's almost like he walked out of, I don't know where, and thought he was going to come onto the UFO scene and sound all British and all respectful. But let me tell you something right now. He's made a fool of in that interview. I mean, there are so many times, even though it's Newsmax, I don't know what they really are. I'm not sure what the name is.
They hire everybody that gets fired. If you get fired from CNN, you go to Newsmax.
Let me tell you what I feel bad
everybody that got fired from
as
CNN
a journalist,
goes over there.
I got to tell you, as a journalist, I must tell you that I'm very sad to see Elizabeth Vargas, former ABC News anchor. She was on the track to become what David Muir right now is, the ABC News nightly. Probably you don't watch it at all, I'm sure. Older people watch it. So nightly news.
I watch NBC nightly news, not ABC. But she was on track to be the main person. Yeah,
she was on track. Whatever occurred, I'm not going to get into all that. But all I can say is I feel bad for her because there she is trusting, like she used to trust ABC News producers to make sure what she's talking about. Yeah, you know. And there she is talking to this guy Grusch, and he's like, or about Grusch. So all I can say is when his interview was analyzed by these people that are very, very key experts on body language and whatnot, this guy falls apart on almost every test.
I thought that was interesting. I don't normally put much stock into like people who are like body language experts, but the fact that all four of them were ripping him apart on the panel.
Oh, Steve.
Usually, and by the way, I watched some other of their shows. Usually they disagree, but in this case, all four of them were ripping him apart for being deceptive or for being not sure of himself. He's not giving any evidence. It's all.
I'm going to do a real flip flop here and tell you before we get more into the alien autopsy mirroring here. I really believe that Grusch might be a victim.
I believe so too.
I've learned that he might be a little bit. I'm hearing words like on the spectrum.
It's been confirmed that he has autism, but and you know, Bob, I don't know that you know, but my son is nonverbal, very, very severe autistic.
You told me it's very serious.
People need to understand too that they're using this autism card to basically say you can't be critical of him because he has autism. And that's not fair because autism is a spectrum and people should be aware that some people are so affected by autism, like my son, that they're 100% handicapped and they need constant total attention and care.
Very serious. I agree.
This man is what would be considered very high functioning autism, which means he's able to feed himself, hold a job, be productive. So if he is affected by autism, and by the way, I'm not downplaying, his condition, but he's not that affected. He's able to speak and he's able to write and hold a job. But for people to suggest that you can't be, people are literally on Twitter right now. You can't criticize him because he has autism.
I couldn't.
It's almost like they put that out to stop people from being so critical.
But let me ask you
of
this:
his mannerisms and his weird tics, which could, I will say, which could be partially from being on the spectrum. And also, we need to recognize that several years ago, the United States medical everything decided that several other conditions, which used to be their own separate condition, like Asperger's, which is a problem understanding social cues and being a little socially awkward, people would be diagnosed with Asperger's. Now it's all in autism spectrum disorder. So this man could simply have a few problems with social cues and he got labeled autistic. We don't know the full extent.
He's very much minor, and I'm sure, Steve, you have a very serious issue there. It's so minor. I can't.
Yeah, he's not handicapped. He's affected, but he's not handicapped.
And let's get back to Arrow. Whatever Arrow represents, any good journalist can tell right away. Arrow is an apology. It's an apology. They're apologetically trying to look into the UFO database. They don't even know where to look exactly.
They don't know how to find the Robert Salas documents. He lost his mind. Like, how can you not find the documents? They're from 45 years ago. We don't know where they're at even, you know?
I want to tell a story that no one really knows. So
great.
We're doing the alien autopsy story. Fox is calling me up every day, like at the production office. Bob, what's going on? You know, we have an air date coming up. Have you found any information? You think it's a hoax? We don't know. We're rushing to air with this because the way it was given to us, we had to meet an air date, a certain date, August 28th. That date was critical. Everybody in the world who had access to the alien autopsy material was going to do a documentary of their own, which paled, of course, to mine, I'm proud to say. But they're calling me up and they're saying, have you heard from the Pentagon? I said, no, Mike, the guy at the Fox Network. I said, no, but I have a call into them and I'm confident they're going to call me back. So I come back from a meeting at the Fox Network and I come back and my assistant's like, Bob, the Pentagon's on the phone. I was like, get out of here, right? So I get to my desk and there he is. Hello. Hi, Bob. It's Sam Sizzle. I'm going to give the name. I want people to know I don't bullshit people. I'll throw names out there. I'll give you the truth. You want to go track this guy down? He might be, God knows how old. I don't care. Sam Sizzle from the Pentagon. Hi, Bob. How are you? Sam Sizzle, Pentagon. How are you, Sam? Bob, good news for you in the network. There was a fire. We don't know what happened to the Roswell material. There was a fire. For all we know, a military cameraman took footage, like you're claiming you guys have to show the public, took it to his house, kept it there. We have no record of it. Didn't go through the fire, nothing. We don't know. So good luck. That's exactly what the Pentagon told me. We aired the footage, did our show. The network was a little nervous. But to say that the Pentagon is giving Arrow some kind of secret access to whatever is ludicrous.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing.
So if there's a secret cover, let's say for the record, because people seem to love these words, if there is a cover-up or a conspiracy with UFOs, Bill Clinton said it best. Others have alluded to. Ronald Reagan even alluded to me in a letter. It's above them. Yeah. They don't know. It's a level above them, like above top secret, all the other cliches.
I kind of hate it when I hear people say that. Oh, this program was 22 levels above the president or something. I go,
there's a reason. It may only be one level. People have tried when they became president.
Oh, I'm fully aware of the history of that.
And they're told, take a number, sit down. We'll get you a corned beef sandwich in 5 minutes, maybe, if you're lucky. And they'll take it like a deli. Take a number, sit down, and that's it. And they don't ever get the information. They never get what they want. They come out from being president, scratching their head going, I don't know. So all it means right now is don't expect the Pentagon, Arrow, some ridiculous TTSA group or anything else, or Mellon himself, Chris Mellon, to push the world into some disclosure. It's ludicrous. However, the alien autopsy actually has more tantalizing evidence in it as a story and a saga that we can get into. And one of those things was the way that
the footage initially looked. You know, when we first saw the alien autopsy footage, it was weird, no doubt. You know, is it 1947 footage? There were 2 other films that show the lead-in to the autopsy footage.
Yeah, and people to this day still post those, claiming that they're like people recovering bodies at Roswell or something.
It's insane. Santilli had a sales guy, come to LA, dazzle everybody. Not me, really. I was just like sitting there, just like the master of ceremonies, letting this guy speak. And he would be like,
what did you first think though when you heard that they had alien footage? What did you think?
I was told the 10 footage was all he had. So I fly to England thinking, he says, Bob, when you come to England, whether you're representing yourself or you're representing Fox Network or NBC, wherever you've worked before, I will show you Harry Truman walking around the crash site. I'm like, really? That sounds great. I get to England. I'm a jet lagged. I come through that whole thing. I come to their offices, the hotel, whatever they had, and they pop in a tape, Steve. And it's the brightly lit alien autopsy scene with the one damaged leg. We'll get to that in a minute. With the one damaged leg, what appears to be this bulbous stomach, this weird gaze it's looking up, kind of sublime, you know, very much, you know, kind of gets you. And then, of course, you see the maneuvering of the doctors and the window and all that. So I was shocked in his office to even see this. I said, Ray, this is not what I was told. I was told there was a tent scene. There was a creature on the table. This is not what I was told. He goes, oh, I'll show you that now too. So he shows me the tent footage, which looks like a flickering light with a body on a table with a bunch of people pulling stuff off, but you could see faces. Right away, my brain went, there are faces there. It did, you know, enhance those and see who they are. But I forgot about that for a minute. I said, show me the rest of the package. And they show me this metal debris, some khaki-dressed military guy spinning around metal parts and stuff, whatever, showcasing them on a table, 6-fingered hand.
The 6-finger hand. Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
People still post that to this day saying it's real.
So Ray says to me, tomorrow morning, Bob, I'm going to sit you in the front row and you're going to see in front of 200 people at the Museum of London this presentation. I said, Ray, you're going to show all this footage, these 3 scenes? He said, he didn't really answer that. So I got there the next day and I'm sitting in the front row and I moved back 1 or 2 just so I could see better. And I'm all there, empty. The theater is empty. And I'm sitting there waiting. So they all file in, news people, producers, whoever they may be. And Ray's up there talking to the projectionist. I don't know what he's doing. The next thing you know, the lights go off. Everyone's sitting down. It's pretty packed. And the lights go on. And they play this scene. Only 10 minutes, by the way. It was not the entire film. It was like a short version, a 10-minute version of a 17-minute autopsy. We found out later. So everybody saw it. There was no real questions, answers, or anything. It was sort of like Ray just showed it, and everybody kind of walked out. However, there was one guy who was like tailing everybody else. He's this guy. He looks like grayish hair, pretty long. Looked like an older Beatles like guy almost. He liked the Beatles, you know. He looked like he's very quiet, wouldn't speak to anybody. I asked someone, "Who is that?" Someone said, "That's Ray's investor. That's the person who put up $100,000 to buy the cameraman footage from the U.S. cameraman." Allegedly, the story was that the cameraman needed money for his daughter who was getting married and needed money.
I remember that.
So he decided to sell the alien autopsy footage to Ray Santilli after protracted whatever negotiation. But all I'm thinking of at this like London scene here is, who is this guy with the shaggy gray hair walking around, nodding around, not speaking to anyone? Finally, we go outside where there's a bar where all people are walking to a pub to maybe have a couple of drinks and talk about this film. And this guy comes sashing, kind of the best way to put it, he's like swashbuckling up. He's like this guy walking up the street with 2 girls on his arm. I realized right away those are Ray's assistants, Sarah and someone, I forget the other name. And they're walking with this guy, and he walks right up to me. I don't know why he zeroed on me. Maybe he knew I was the producer.
And he says, Bob, how are you? Volker Spielberg, nice to meet you. I said, Volker, you're the investor, I guess. German investor, right? And he just broke right into it. And he says, are you Jewish? And I said, I happen to be, but I'm also part Italian, but I'm Jewish. He said, didn't miss a beat. He goes, you know, Bob, there's a better chance the alien autopsy footage you just saw today is real than that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust.
Oh, God.
Really, Volker?
God, who does that?
We're off to a smashing start, me and Volker Spielberg, right? Now, what's interesting is Volker Spielberg made sense to me as I walk into the pub because I realized the rumor was, I think I showed you this for a reason. I did. Omni magazine, that I wrote the cover article about the face on Mars for them. That's kind of broke my journalism cred right into the UFO field.
I'm sure that I read that back in the day.
In the same edition, a couple of months later, September, there was an edition where they had a short story about the alien autopsy before I ever really got involved. And in the story Omni did, they called me up, in fact, and asked me, what have you heard about this? You're in Hollywood now working there. What do you make of this thing? And I said, what do you mean? They said the rumors are Steven Spielberg is behind a Project X. That's what the article said in the Omni edition. Project X. Some movie is being made by Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. And it's all about the recovered Roswell footage. Holy shit, I'm thinking. Could that be real? So
yeah, but I want to ask you, when you first saw the footage, did you like have a gut reaction to it, or did you just say we have to find out more? Like, did you think it could be real? It might be real. It's definitely not real. Like, I want to know when you first saw it.
The 10 footage was a non sequitur. I couldn't make any sense out of the 10 footage.
Yeah, that's kind of worthless. And the wreckage footage looks kind of worthless.
Well, until I discovered one of the guys was named Elliot Willis, and he wasn't from 1947. He was from 1994. Was a technician. Okay, so when we found out that was the unraveling of the hoax, as far as I'm concerned. We started with that. But you asked me the first moment I saw in Ray's office. Too small a screen, couldn't really judge it, wasn't sure, wanted to wait till I got to the big screen. When Ray played it on a major theatrical screen, I got to be honest, my dad, my late father, was one of the top photo experts in Madison Avenue in New York. And he was known for doing some of the finest retouching. He had a company that had all these artists. They do photo retouching and change images and whatever. Cool. My dad taught me about when something is photographic. He would say, Bobby, let me show you something, little kid. When something is photographic, Steve, you see the natural light. You see certain things. It was a good job. Anybody who says they thought the alien autopsy was fake from day one is just lying.
Yeah,
nobody knew.
When you first saw that, I just remember when I first saw it. But I was a child, and I totally wanted to believe. And I read about Roswell. I think I had a book on Roswell. So I remember my dad thought it was all BS. I go, Dad, look, this is from the Roswell press, the book, and he's like, no, it's not. It's fake. It's rubber.
Your dad was keying on, I think, the obvious. If you look at the story being told and you look at the footage, they don't match. The story is ridiculous. The footage, now I know, made by a major special effects guy with the help of a cameraman / journeyman, we'll call him journeyman director. This journeyman director
for faking it, they did a good job faking footage.
You got to credit. By the way, just take a look at the remake of that scene in the movie called Alien Autopsy in 2006 and from England. He doesn't come close. The same special effects guy doesn't even come close to the feeling and possible reality of that black and white film. So people who say they thought it was a lie, it wasn't real. Stan Winston, the late Stan Winston, was interviewed by Time Magazine after our third broadcast. We did a third airing of this thing before World's Greatest Hoaxes, where we debunked it. And Stan told me on the way to the rap party on the phone and other times, he believed it was an amazing job. But there were a couple of times Stan felt when they put the kind of flesh into the bowls, there were things that did not look right. You wouldn't treat alien flesh in that way. There were problems in the execution of the autopsy,
Sure.
but the actual look of it, it was a mystery. People who say, oh, I can right away see it was fake.
There's still people today arguing that it was real and that you're part of a CIA cover-up, Bob. There's a Facebook group. I
know.
There's a Facebook group, and he's a very nice guy, but he totally believes it's all real. I feel
for him, but then you have Santilli, like Grusch in a way, saying things that are unsupported by the footage or anything else.
Did you ever ask him where's the Harry Truman walking around?
Oh, no, we have that. Yeah. Harry Truman was, if you watch the 10 footage, it's kind of weird, kind of wonky. But if you look at it, there's a guy in a trench coat.
Oh, so they're saying that was the guy. Oh,
Harry
that was
Truman.
it.
Harry wearing a trench coat. Ray will never be able. I mean, I was telling this company that I want to do this with. I hope we do it together. There are so many details about this story that nobody knows, that when they start hearing about Ray taking me out for the day in London, looking around as if he's being followed, I believed he was really worried. Who's following him? What's going on? What is this exactly, this alien autopsy? Is it a psyop? Are there government people trying to fake out the world with this material? Is Ray possibly working for is he an operative? To this day, I don't know, to tell you the truth. He would almost fit an operative to plant an alien autopsy story out there for reasons that might be hard for us to understand right now. So you got to give Santilli credit about one thing. He's been able to keep the story alive and convinced some journalists, I don't know who, but I'm not going to name them, LA Times, okay. The LA Times actually wrote a story. I love doing that. I may teach a course one day in journalism, and I'll bring this up. In college, if the New York Times can get fooled by Bob Bigelow and company, what do you want to call them? Group, whatever, Hal Puthoff and all the other people. If the LA Times can write several years ago, I believe it was the anniversary of Fox, either 25th anniversary. I don't remember exactly when this was, but I remember there was an event several years ago where the LA Times were covering Fox's hits over the years. And they mentioned Alien Autopsy, which I appreciate. It's one of their biggest hits of any kind ever, right, on the network. And they're talking about the story. They're telling about, the footage now known to be a possible reconstruction of actual footage that actually existed. I'm like, what? Where'd you get the belief that there was any proof that Ray had footage? I don't want to spoil it because I want this other company and/or me, if I do my own version of it, to tell the story properly. But let's put it this way. There was no reason to believe, and there is no reason to believe, that a cameraman ever existed from the U.S. military, although it is registered that way at the Copyright Office that I registered, which is it came from a U.S. military cameraman. And so that's pretty much, that story is locked in now. You can't undo that. If Santilli were to say, by the way, no, sorry, I reconstructed what I saw from an old guy in Florida, fraud now is what we're dealing with. Fraud in the Fox contract, fraud in my contract with him and the network. It's a nightmare. So you can't mention, by the way, I reconstructed lost footage. It's a document like the Mona Lisa or something. Like, reconstruct the Mona Lisa. Wrong. We're going to show, or the other guys, if I do it with them, we're going to show why the claim that this special effects expert copied stills from the original film, we will show undeniable 100% evidence that cannot be true from another autopsy they did that didn't work out very well. So
so they had B-roll. They took it from the B-roll?
No, they went and made two bodies. They started with the first body, or they had made one body, and it wasn't working out too well. But they decided to kind of experiment with things. So they have material being removed from an orifice of the alien. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty interesting.
And
I've
then,
never seen
hold
that.
on.
Yeah.
The other leg, 2 legs are fine. Now, wait a minute. If you're matching the Mona Lisa, how do you reconstruct?
Yeah, you missed the leg detail.
Two separate detailed creatures. So if a jury in America or a judge were to see this case prosecuted, Ray would lose badly. But people want to believe, and I'm one of those, I want to believe that the rumors for years from either the Roswell crash or other possible events are proof that aliens have visited Earth. And they may be, here to watch us and whatnot. The thing that I really find egregious without any of those facts proven, because I could show you 100 videos. We could do 100 videos of UFOs around the world. It'll be an amazing show. See the cultures of where they were shot. Like the late Anthony Bourdain did a series around the world with food. We might go around the world and see this video was shot on November 5th, 1993, but where did it, what does it mean? That's all great, but it doesn't prove anything. I want the public to keep the fascination, the sense of wonder, but not be bullshitted to by a bunch of people that are really rank amateurs when it comes to UFOs, like Elizondo, like Mellon, like this guy Grusch. Are you kidding me? We've been there, done that. If we're good journalists in the field, we know what we're doing, and there aren't too many. I'm proud to say I might be one of the rare ones out there. So
yeah, I don't consider somebody that runs with a story just based on somebody's testimony very credible as far as being a journalist. I want to. You got to see some evidence, and that's what we're lacking here.
Steve,
my biggest fear, Bob, is that it's going to take 3 years, but then we're going to find out that this guy got all the so-called evidence that he's talking about. He got from people like Putoff and Eric Davis and other people.
A nightmare. What you're describing to me is a career nightmare. I spent all these years trying to bring, of all the mysteries I did, whether it be unsolved mysteries, crime and UFOs and ghosts and miracles and whatever it might be, whether they were highly rated, most of my stuff was, but still, the idea was, let's get to the truth. Let's get to the truth. Unsolved mysteries we always wanted, and the executives there were very clear, we want to solve mysteries.
And one of the things I liked about you, and we talked about this before, is that for those unaware, Bob would bring in very skeptical people and almost give them equal time with the people that were pushing that this is real.
We will.
And that's something that's been lost. Like this. Oh, and by the way, just a correction. Yeah. Somebody's messaging me like sporadically. I have a few messages. I'm not sure if it was you or me that said News Max. It's News Nation that ran the story. Just a correction.
They're equal to me in their journalistic.
Yeah. What's funny is Kevin Randall said the same thing. He said News Nation, not News.
It don't matter.
News Max, not News Nation, and people attacked him for it. They know what we're the
fine
about is News Nation. But the interesting thing is when they run this Grusch story, they do an hour-long interview with this guy, and then they give one skeptic, Mick West, I think I timed it was like 3 minutes. So we've got an hour of, but we've got an hour of, this is a true story. This is definitely got to be true. And we've got 3 minutes of somebody with the skeptically slanted
in the new documentary. Right, in the feature we're planning on doing, which may or may not delve heavily into the alien autopsy mirroring if we don't do it with the other people, I have to tell you that we will lay bare the journalists that have concocted this 6-year UFO nothing burger, this UAP complete vacuous nothingness, these gimbal video, FLIR video, which came out in 2007 on Above Top Secret. It didn't dazzle anybody, by the way. And this other video called, Go Fast, which is a balloon.
Yeah, it was doing 40. It wasn't going fast. It was doing 40.
Mick West calls me up like 2 years ago and goes, Bob, by the way, if I do your little I did a little stream with him. If you ask me about that, that's probably going like 40 miles an hour. He nailed it. It's amazing. He nailed it before the government went and concluded in their own little analysis.
They basically copied his homework.
So the guy in the audio going, wee! I mean, who is that guy going, wee? Who is that guy in the audio on the plane going, we locked into a balloon? Good job, buddy. Nice job.
Well, there's no provenance to even prove that the audio goes with that video. They could have added it.
Steve, maybe of the 3 videos, I'm not going to say for sure, but we'll dig into this for the documentary feature. I believe that they know for sure that was a object that they were using to lock on. So it wasn't like they were out there and some unknown balloon showed up. Hey, balloon! The way he's acting, it's like he's playing a video game and he was able to lock it in and use the machine. He's more excited about the machine, and the government seems to be concluding that. So we'll see. I know they want to kind of stay away from it because they're so taken advantage of by these grifters, Hal put off.
Yeah.
You know, but let me tell you one thing that people don't know. My company kind of broke ranks a little bit to our usual modus operandi back in 2020, 21, or 19 actually. And we tried to bring the head of CBS News, who I knew personally. I think she was already there, but she was becoming, I don't know. We tried to bring the definitive story about the gimbal video we felt at the time, the FLIR video, the other Go Fast video. We wanted to show the public that this was probably not what we thought. And we wanted to show Congressman Joyce Beatty from Ohio on the House floor on video. I can send it to you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I want that clip.
Give it to all your people. She's on the House floor saying, we need to, I'm paraphrasing, we need to regulate Regulation A+ stock schemes like
talking
this
about
company, which she says is her favorite example of abuses. A company with a guy running in from a rock and roll band who claims he's going to get he's going to sell stock essentially to middle America from Wall Street, sell stock to have a company that's going to, create faster than light travel speed and study UFOs. Now, we all know she was talking about, To the Stars Academy.
TSA, yeah.
Do you think that the New York Times felt worthy enough to comment that a congresswoman on the House floor was pointing out this company as a scam that should be used as a reason to change the laws? Do you think the New York Times?
Yeah, I would think that they would have to, but they didn't.
They didn't want to because they probably didn't even know it. Number one, they don't follow it. No, here's my big pet peeve with journalists and UFOs. My pet peeve is that they don't know the beat. They barely cover it ever. And then in comes Leslie Keene and her partner, Ralph Blumenthal, and other projects. And they're going to do an objective job about UFOs. What kills me.
Meanwhile, Kane is married, or she lived with a UFO abduction researcher.
Bud Hopkins.
And, Bud Hopkins. Yeah. And she believes in spiritualists like mediums and ectoplasm. She believes in rapping. She believes in all of that stuff.
No evidence, no credibility at all. She decides she wants to look at near-death experiences and life after death. Stay in your lane. You were married to an abduction artist /
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. Did you I don't know how closely you've been following it, but Blumenthal and Kane essentially said like, oh, well, Grusch didn't tell us about the bodies. We don't want to talk about the bodies. That wasn't part of our original reporting. Meanwhile, she lived with one of the most famous alien abduction researchers, but she doesn't want to talk about the bodies. And is this a case of that's too far? That's a bridge too far.
It's too much.
So it's too much, right? So
perfect.
In order to make it believable, you have to pull it back a little bit.
You got it. So she said recently that she might have exaggerated some of the TTSA story. I'm paraphrasing, but as long as it gets the UFO subject back into the news, back people talking about it, it's all okay. And I disagree vehemently. You have to treat this subject very straight. Otherwise, people are not going to believe you when you have amazing evidence to show. And that's what we're going to show. We're going to bring on in our feature doc called Ufologics. We're going to bring on the top CIA scientists that people have talked about for 2 decades or more that I've heard about it.
Yeah, and I for one, and for those unaware, he's talking about a literal guy who's like just kind of legendary in the shadows, and you can talk more about him.
I'll show you how weird it gets.
He's never given this CIA person has been heavily involved in all of this UFO stuff for his whole career.
Let me show you guys something right now. In the same edition,
here, I'll solo you here.
Fates on Mars, the same exact edition. There's an article about the individual we're going to be talking about. And Bruce Maccabee is a top expert. And the individual we're going to be talking about is profiled in this article. It's the only article I'm aware of. The coincidence is really uncanny here. That my first big feature article I wrote for a cover for a magazine like that, in the same edition, the writers of that magazine were interviewing both the scientists at the CIA and Bruce Maccabee about their collective interest in UFOs. Maccabee would bring, Bruce used to be in the Fund for UFO Research. He was a prominent Navy optical physicist that did work with the CIA jointly. He did a project with this individual at the CIA. They became fast friends, somewhat. And then Bruce Maccabee would be asked to come up to the CIA, as this article indicated, and give kind of like paper bag lunch meeting seminars about UFOs to CIA scientists. And Ron, this individual, we'll call him Ron, he will.
Well, people know who you're talking about. It's Ron Pandolfi.
Well, right? I'm not going to quote him because I don't want him, you don't
want to
over promote him.
Sure. But don't upset a CIA guy. You might end up vanished.
Well, there are people that know his name. He's very well known in terms of the annals of UFOs. Whether or not he would state to the public whether he's been misquoted, represented,
or misled by people feeding him information.
Finally come on.
But he's really going to give an on-the-camera interview with you, a deep one, right?
Yep, this is it. And I will say it's the first time. We've been cultivating this for over 3.5, maybe 4 years. There is an interesting backstory. Some people may even know about it on the internet. But overall, however a journalist like me gets to meet a source like him and develop a camaraderie and some sort of rapport and be able to tell that story, that's what a journalist does. Any good journalist who gets, it's called a get. When you get an interview that's hard.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a good get. That's an amazing get. And by the way, I, for one, have heard whispers about what he knows for my whole life. So I am very keen on hearing exactly what he has to say and what beans he's going to be spilling, if any, or what his take on the whole situation is.
I want everyone to know who's watching today on your show tonight that though he will expose and help me and my staff expose the fraudsters, the grifters, from Harry Reid, unfortunately late Harry Reid, maybe innocently believing these things, believing that aliens could be evil because of the activities at Skinwalker Ranch, following people home, whatever reasons they come up with this evil UFO narrative. When people hear the truth of the individuals he knows oh so well and has watched them navigate, he will be telling the truth. But on the other end, he will be talking about cases that are fascinating, that he was brought into. I believe he will. I don't think it's been confirmed 100%, but I think he will be willing to talk about cases that are on the public record, that other journalists have touched on a little bit before me, a little. And these stories are proof positive, in my opinion, of some kind of otherworldly activity by nuclear bases that cannot be explained. There's footage, thank God. There's radar tapes, thank God. There are credible.
Oh yeah, well that stuff is incredibly interesting, and it should be.
Right, B-52 pilots that pull up next to the craft and look at it and see the dome on it and see how big the craft is. Now, you want to impeach the B-52 pilot? Well, he drove a plane with nuclear bombs likely on it. So you would trust this source and others like that. There's also a film that was allegedly recorded during a missile test where the missile was, they were testing nuclear warheads. And apparently the record shows in the government records that a UFO, a flying saucer, flew in, zapped the warhead a couple of times, all on camera, all caught because they're filming to watch how the warhead comes out, learn about the nuclear possibility. If this, it's a dummy warhead, it's not nuclear active, but they're using this to test their weaponry. And this is in the files. Where is the film? A flying saucer, a saucer flies in, shoots.
Yeah, I've seen a recreation of that footage, but
people have seen
I was aware it was a recreation. Yeah,
we want to see the actual evidence. Now, if Arrow or anybody else wants to really do their job, they follow that case, Jacobs and Mansman, those are the two names. You follow their story. See where that film may have been taken to. Clearly was shown, clearly is described. No one's lying. Those are the kind of evidences, or I should say, no one's likely lying. Now, again, I do believe that this individual from the CIA will say that people lie. Yes. People, this guy Schellenberg, whoever this dude is.
Well, it'd be nice to have somebody admit that for once instead of just pushing that it's all true.
He tries to make it seem like just because you had intelligence clearances, just because you had a military level, you won't be lying about this stuff? Military people lie all the time. In fact, the DIA, I understand from my own journalistic research, is notorious. The Defense Intelligence Agency. And I'll let our source from the CIA explain the differences between DIA and CIA, if you will. But from what I've learned, the CIA operates out of the country. They're there to protect us from outside the country. Inside the country, the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, they operate in a way that could be to fool the other military, Chinese, Russian.
Yeah, let them think we have alien technology. Let them think that we have super advanced.
The DIA they birthed Skinwalker Ranch. The DIA went there with a few people, like this guy Lukaski. They claim they saw certain things because they were DIA. You give them some credibility. Guys like George Knapp write the little books and write the little thing. But people have to ask the question, would DIA personnel lie? I'll tell you a story, hopefully, in my own documentary. It was for the Guardian story on Unsolved Mysteries. It was probably rated higher than the Alien Autopsy. We did a story about a UFO landing in Canada. The video was shot by what looked to be a person named the Guardian.
Yeah, I remember this.
Some kind of a thumbprint. Oh, it's funny, as a young Bob Kiviat played the part of the Guardian. There I am behind the camera. You can see me. And they wanted me to do like a Hitchcock thing. I'm going to be in my own story, right? But Guardian has never been found. We have no idea what Guardian is. Some Canadian group did a documentary. It was like, you got to be kidding. It was ridiculous. It didn't prove anything. And so this video is a fascinating video, right? We don't know to this day anything more than NASA's head of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Dr. Robert Nathan, analyzed this scene, mainly the main scene where it's blinking, pulsating. You can see the saucer shape and everything else. It shines a blue beam directly at the cameraman, whoever that is. So Robert Nathan, the guy who invented image processing for NASA, how you get an image from space where it's all ones and zeros, and it becomes an image you can show the news and all that, right? Of the moon, of let's say another planet, whatever. Dr. Nathan analyzed this for us. He also did the enhancement of the tent footage. He's my friend. He was my friend. He's an older guy now. He's like 90. But he did these favors for me, Steve. He enhanced the tent footage so we could see the faces. So when we met Elliot Willis, the young technician at AK Music, a karaoke company, we were able to verify how he was fake. He was not a real cameraman. The real doctor. So in the alien autopsy footage called the tent footage, that one scene, there's the Guardian footage. So Robert Nathan concluded for Unsolved Mysteries and me that it was some kind of luminosity. He's never seen colors like that. It's on the right side of your screen there. He's never seen anything like this. He could not ever call it a hoax. He had no idea what kind of apparatus would create these light signatures. So why do I tell you the story? While we were waiting for our airing to happen, we were waiting for the broadcast. TV guy to come out with an ad, or was working on an ad already, full page or half page ad of Robert Stack holding the tape or showing the footage. All I can say is I got a call. I had to go up to NASA, JPL. Dr. Nathan said, Bob, I told you if I ever see anything that could be a hoax on this thing, I'd let you know. I said, what, did you do a new analysis? He said, no. I got a call from a guy named Carl. He's from the DIA. And he says he can show us why this is a fraud. I said, oh my God. So we had already shot our story, Steve. It's way before it ever went on the air. It turned out to be the highest rated Unsolved Mysteries broadcast ever.
I remember this one because I watched Unsolved Mysteries every time with my father. And my father would get up to get snacks during this crap. Like he had no interest. But I was right there oh my God, it's aliens.
So listen, 1 out of 4 TVs, a 25 share in homes, meaning
25% of people with their televisions on were watching this. Amazing.
So before the broadcast, Dr. Nathan says, Carl's coming up. You got to come up. So this guy, Carl from the DIA, meets us at Jump Ocean Laboratory. He wheels in this apparatus that looks like a tower of equipment, video, camera, whatever. He says, I'm going to show you guys, Mr. Kiviat, I'm going to show you and NBC, Unsolved Mysteries, and I'm going to show Dr. Nathan why it's fake. So he says, play your video of the footage. So I put a tape into the footage. And he goes, okay, I'm going to shine my camera on the TV screen. He has a monitor underneath his apparatus here on the tower. And he says, look at the monitor. Nothing. He's shooting the television. We're seeing the Guardian footage like you showed. But we're not seeing anything. It's just black on his screen. He says, you see everybody moving around? What are you talking about? Bob Nathan threw this guy out so summarily, it was almost embarrassing. He was like, don't bullshit a bullshitter, Carl. You get the hell out of my office. You wasted Bob Kiviat's time. You wasted NBC's time. Get out of here. He threw the guy literally out. This guy's sheepishly leaving the building. Why would the DIA send someone in like that? Now, Bob Nathan called me up the next day and said, Mr. Bob, I want you to know, Bob Kiviat, he was really DIA. I've checked him out.
That's pretty interesting.
DIA.
So they came in to try to debunk it as fake, but they weren't showing you evidence, right? It was like a blank screen. It
was a comedy, Steve. It was almost like a dog and pony show, comedic, like Laurel and Hardy, the old days. It was funny only because of how goofy it was. But the question is, why would the DIA try to contaminate an interesting mystery? Like I told you about the guy Sam Sizzle at the Pentagon with Alien Autopsy. He didn't make anything up. He said, look, as far as we know, we couldn't tell you if it's a real autopsy or not because the guy took it away from the military. We have a fire that happened at Roswell. We don't know what to make of it. Good luck with your show. That's more honest.
That's fair. Yeah, right, that's fair. And people are guessing it's a body of a helicopter. It's a truck. Can you talk a little bit about
that's such
how that panned out?
He had a guy from the RCMP, this guy Dennis DeHate, who comes in on the Guardian footage, and he says because there's a Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman, he knows it's a helicopter. There is nothing in that footage that looks even remotely like a helicopter, but because people had heard there were helicopters in the area, flying around, analyzing something those days before. There was a lot of activity around that area for about 2 or 3 years of UFO sightings. So helicopters have known to fly in. So it's just a complete conflation of nonsense that this guy said that in my Fox broadcast I did in UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape #1. We did show the Guardian footage, and we did let this guy Dennis DeHate from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police speak. But then we have Bruce Maccabee shutting it down like that's a ridiculous explanation. Nothing looks like a helicopter, and we move on. So I just want to let you know that your people and anyone interested in UFOs should know I'm not debunking. I'm just clarifying what's real, what we can say.
Yeah, but I mean, there were some, I remember there were some other claims of like neighbors or somebody nearby who saw that bright light and heard helicopter noises.
There's definite story still to be told.
Yeah. So it's still open-ended, right?
What was that?
And it's still open-ended.
Oh my God! And there's one
still argue over this. Yeah,
there's one suspect in that case, but we deviated from the main story, which is if you have an alien autopsy that made such impact on society, which I'm proud of in a way. It's an interesting film. It showed the world that you could show a possible alien, and no one's going to freak out. They're still going to go to work the next day. I know people were talking at the water cooler about the show, but they weren't saying like, oh my God, if it's an alien, I got to just quit my job. Nobody was saying that. It's a great study. If you look at it carefully, Alien Autopsy did not freak the world out. In fact, it kind of brought things a little bit more center. Okay, maybe the X-Files was very popular at the time. That show and I have kind of a love-hate relationship because they mentioned me in the show a couple of times. They showed some of my stories in the show a couple of times. They used my name. All I can tell you right now is I had a very good friend on the show who became a top executive producer for Chris Carter. And that's why my childhood friend, Howard Gordon, who became, very prolific on Homeland, he did that show, 24 on Fox. But when Howard went to work on the X-Files, he consulted with me at Unsolved Mysteries. And he left with my materials, and those became some of the X-Files stories. So I have that feeling about the X-Files. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. But I got to tell you, the public, as you remember as a kid, was fascinated with UFOs at that time. It makes this period look like a joke, to be honest with you. It's much more. It's only in the insular world of whether you call it Newsmax or News whatever, or Fox News Channel or CNN, that on average at any given time have anywhere from 500,000 people watching to maybe 2 million people or 3 million people watching at the highest level at the Fox News Channel or CNN.
Yeah, but they're just so you know, Bob, I'm a big supporter of new media like we're on, and there are live stream shows that are beating CNN's daily rates in one day. Like there are people who beat their views in one show for the whole day.
All right, so let me ask you this stuff. As a guy, you're prolific. We had a mutual friend, Manny, who works with me. When I heard I go on your show, I had seen your show. I love what you do here.
Thank you.
I consider you to be, even though you knew my shows and you were younger and stuff, I appreciate it. But I'm not just saying that to make you feel good. I mean, you present truth-seeking thoughts. You're looking for truth. I'm about truth, even if I don't get it right away. I'm trying for the truth, right? We're trying. We may tell some stories along the way if we're not sure. They may be entertaining and all that, but we're looking for the truth, right? So if the truth is that there's evidence of alien beings, there's evidence of crashed saucers, crashed UFOs, we have to be really careful and not accept everything we see, right? So if you have an alien autopsy film and it matches some of the story, you analyze it and you see if it matches. But if you have no evidence at all and you come out with these claims, why would Senator Rubio just the other day on Twitter, on Reddit, whatever he was, make like this credibility here? Is that the way he judges every governmental issue?
Well, actually, I just saw that somebody posted another interview he did after that one where he said, I'm not saying that man's claims are either credible or not credible.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. He's already backpedaling in case it's a fake story, I guess.
Yeah, and his future goals of being president or anything else all over again are affected by these kind of like whimsical, go along with the ride, whatever the story is, go along with it, get a little bit of media. There's a guy from Tennessee I saw on the air. I don't even know where to go with this guy. I'm going to try to be nice. I mean, he was trying to make it seem like that Grusch is credible. Oh, because other people who've had clearances in the military and the government, they're claiming similar things.
Who?
Yeah, and can we
Who
talk about that
exactly?
for a minute? Because I think it's important that people realize that most modern governments have a crash retrieval program. If there's a
Or
Soviet
enemy
satellite,
talkers.
yeah, if there's a Soviet satellite going down, we try to go get it. If there's a MiG that crashed in Africa from the Russian government, somehow crashed in Africa, we go and we get it.
Yeah.
So I'm also concerned that this man Grusch might be a victim, and that some people might have mistaken a real crash retrieval program for something involving aliens or it could be as simple as somebody got some tech. The materials were strange. They didn't understand them. They thought this can't be human and started rumors. And then this guy gets a whiff of the rumors, or other people do. It's all like a game of telephone when you're a kid. And by the time you get to the truth, so I think they might trace this back to some real crash recovery programs.
You're being kind.
But there's a big jump. It's a big jump to aliens. And by the way, I always correct people. If this guy Grusch's story all turns out to be 100% true, I would cream in my pants, because I think that would be awesome. That would be awesome. It would prove we weren't alone in the universe.
By the way, I can assure you and all your viewers and listeners tonight that Grusch will present absolutely no evidence at all that he saw anything remotely alien, remotely.
No, he's already kind of admitted he never saw anything himself.
I'm willing to bet that he'll be on a stage eventually with people like Hal Puthoff, others associated like
Gary Nolan,
Mellon. I think Elizondo is leaving the party. I think Elizondo realized the jig is up. Manny did a great job on Who's Lou. Many people.
Oh, there's a lot more than that. Yeah, there's recent piece in the Black Vault.
Yeah, John
Greenwald, everybody, and Stephen Greenstreet's been ripping his story apart. Yeah,
I can't deny the New York Post. We like some of the work they've done. We're a little bit unsure about why such a fanboy approach was adopted for this character who now stars in Skinwalker Ranch. When after he bought Skinwalker Ranch, he begged me, Bob, please don't tell anyone I bought Skinwalker Ranch. It's gonna hurt my business. It's gonna.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people don't know this, but Bob, you got to tell this story. So Bob was the first person that knew who bought Skinwalker Ranch, right? Tell me about this, because this is funny. You're one of the first that knew.
I was working with a research group in Florida that were pinning down where the gimbal footage was shot. They were analyzing, the sky. They were doing a great job. And sure enough, they collaborated with me to some degree. And what happened was this guy had good old Jeremy Corbell filming him for a Skinwalker Ranch cheesy documentary that I would have never made years ago, but for whatever reason, he was able to get it out there. And so apparently they were filming this individual, and there were things, we'll call it jewelry, we'll call it the plane they were on, piecing together the evidence of who this person was. So sure enough, on a whim, I just thought it might be who it was. I contacted the security person at Skinwalker Ranch, and I said, I believe your boss is named so-and-so. And I believe he goes back.
Well, you can say it now.
I'm not going to, because you know what? This guy is a loose cannon. He literally threatens everybody legally, or
called everybody pigs because we wanted some evidence, Mr. Kiviat. We're all pigs because we want evidence.
Well, the individual who stars in Skinwalker Ranch is Brandon Fugel. And Brandon Fugel was profiled heavily in Stephen Greenstreet's little story about what we're seeing in UFOs. And because he's a prominent real estate agent in Salt Lake City, and the family goes back to Utah history lore like crazy, you want to give this guy a degree of credibility. But when you see the behavior of someone who is trying to build some kind of mythos in an area that I've been studying for 25 years to come up with, there's nothing there, There's no there beyond George Knapp buying a line of nonsense that we now find out Lukaski and the DIA was foisting on Bob Bigelow and Harry Reid and everybody else. Just read Lukaski's book that came out.
Yeah,
2
I
years
did,
ago.
and I was just
read-
shocked that this whole thing was
All
like
you got to
a
do is
thing.
read the forward by Harry Reid, the late Harry Reid. The first chapter, I'm not making it up. All swap never really was what it claimed to be. A-tip never existed. Completely made up word. Just ridiculous. Great Lou Elizondo ran a make-believe name company.
I always
That
get
had
in
no
trouble.
meaning.
I get nasty messages, Bob, because I say he ran a Pentagon UFO program in the land of make-believe, and I get messages every time I say that, but it's true. Yeah.
Your readers, your viewers should become readers of a book called Blank Check by Tim Weiner.
Oh, I know that book. Yeah.
When I exposed with Geraldo Rivera years ago, right before Unsolved Mysteries, I moved from New York to LA. I worked for a show called Now It Can Be Told with Geraldo Rivera hosting. 1 year it was on, like a hard copy, current affair kind of thing, right? And we debunked in a half-hour episode the entire psychic warfare program.
Oh, yeah, Stargate.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
General
Men Who
Albert,
Stare at Goats. That's
right,
basically the story, yeah.
Hal Puthoff, the same guy behind some of that nonsense, is in TTSA.
Yeah, he's behind the TTSA thing, and he's behind Skinwalker, and he's behind Grusch, probably.
So my understanding,
yeah.
and I don't know, I didn't do all the work on this yet, because for the documentary we will, because we want to touch on all of it. The alien autopsy mirroring, what's going on right now with these people, and the former stuff with the New York Times leading to where we are now. So Politics is an important documentary, Steve, and I'm just going to chomp in right now and say, we're in a different world right now. When I used to go to the Fox network and present this stuff, they'd be like, Bob, we love this stuff. Now it's just 4 months ago, an executive there. Hey, Bob, we love what you did for the network years ago. We love what you're doing even now. We can never touch this now, UFOs anymore. Why not? Because cable television and other types of platforms have really lowered the standard.
Yeah,
and
they lowered the bar. Yeah.
The concept, two different executives kind of said it different ways. If we do your stuff on our air, we'll look like a cable or lower outfit. We're still broadcast. We're still respected. So the glomming on of this subject matter you call the paranormal and UFOs by cable TV outlets like History Channel, which for all intents and purposes has nothing to do with history.
You're right.
I'm not saying everything, but
well, no, they used to, but then they got a whiff of those ratings and they decided to just go all chips in.
Exactly.
And I know somebody that worked there who told me, if anybody wants to have as soon as we saw the Ancient Aliens ratings, the first few weeks of ratings, they launched 4 new series.
They might as
all
well
around the paranormal.
They might as well call the Ancient Aliens, the channel, Ancient Aliens channel. They might as well do that, and then leave History Channel to do like you see in the old Sopranos episodes. If you go back and watch Sopranos on Netflix or whatever, Tony Soprano's watching History Channel in 2000. It's like war stuff.
Yeah, my dad loved it. He loved World War II, and Vietnam stuff. So he loved the History Channel before they did the switch.
Exactly. So what happens now is that we have channels that have really just gone for the money, have given up their entire branding, okay? But now, because you can't get the funding from them to make a kind of show that I'm known to make, which costs several $100,000 to make, usually, if done well, not like these cheesy documentaries you see coming out from, like Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer shows up in my office in 1993 at Unsolved Mysteries. You're my young producer. I just moved from New York. I'm working on the Guardian story. I'm getting a few other stories going. I'm kind of an eager beaver producer there. I have a meeting set up with a person that will remain nameless. Okay. Just a UFO researcher. He's got a second guy coming with him.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
So the person in the front desk at Unsolved Mysteries just thought he was with him. So I said, who are you? My name is Stephen Greer. I'm a medical technician. I'm an EMT technician. And I'm going to be, with a matter of minutes, he's telling me he's going to be the biggest UFO researcher because he's got government contacts.
And I'm sitting there going, I just had Bob Nathan from NASA. I've had people in my shows, major people.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear that bullshit. I go, Mr. Greer, not doctor, right? Mr. Because he did say to call him doctor. Mr. Greer, what do you mean you're going to be the number one guy? Is this your goal? He pulls out a tape and he had a copy of the Guardian footage. I don't know where he got it. I said, number one, you put that in your freaking bag again. You never bring that tape out again. We have an exclusive with the guy who got the footage from this Guardian.
Yeah, you own the footage.
You better never let that out of your sight, which he didn't, okay? But I've been watching that guy build a complete farcical career, teaching people that he could communicate with flashlights, with UFOs, CE5 technology. Now he's giving lectures, he's giving whatever. But here's the killer. He makes documentaries by crowdsourcing it, never giving money back to the people, keeping the money that he does make from his fan base. And
then he gets paid for this from the street. See, that's what people don't understand. And people have attacked me for, first of all, Bob, I've been a video editor for probably 20 years now. Early digital video adopter and everything. I made music videos for all kinds of people in Philadelphia. Like I'm not a professional video editor, but I can look at a film and tell you how much money's on the screen. And he collects $500,000, and then his film consists of a few sit-down interviews and stock footage.
Well, we don't have
half of the film is stock footage. The money's not going where he's saying, I need $500,000 to make a film. And then he makes a film that doesn't cost anywhere near that much, in my opinion. And then he gets paid. He puts it out for profit, and then he gets paid from all the streaming services. Right.
But what
YouTube ads eventually when they put it on YouTube and all this other stuff.
There is good news. There is good news. Screen Media, that I'm doing my films with for now, bought that company essentially that put out some of this stuff. They want to clean up their act. Simultaneously by me producing higher level documentary programming through that marketing technique. The other good news is that this company that approached me, they'll be bringing a definitive alien autopsy. It looks like, if we work it out, a definitive alien autopsy series that mirrors back all the things you're talking about for a major either cabler or platform.
Oh, that would be awesome to see.
Great, because it'll restart the thinking a little bit, that this could well be a subject matter that people care about. So I'm really rooting for them to get either one of the broadcast networks or a cable outfit or a HBO Max or Hulu or whatever it might be. Someone needs to step up now and show people love this material. If it's done really well and journalistically and all that, it's great entertainment and it's informative, Steve. But here's what I want your people to know. If you've got 10 people watching or thousands, as you have all subscribers, a guy like me has to adopt a new method for producing. I have to go out now and raise 80% of what Fox would give me before. The company that I'm working with now will put up like 20% of the money, but they won't put up the full amount. So if people really want the good type of programming they know me to make, we're going to have to get some help. It could be from an investor. It could be from people just want to see it. And they get their money back. They get a bona fide agreement done with the SEC or those type of legalities.
That's a little better than just give me $500,000
right.
And you never get to even see the accounting of that $500,000.
I'm working with a New York lawyer who explained to me exactly what the rules are, how everybody has to kind of get their investment certificate. As soon as the money starts coming in, they get paid back their investment. If it's $5,000, they get back the $5,000 plus a 30% interest fee. And then they get a percentage of all the profits forever in perpetuity. Tell that to Stephen Ripoff Man Greer.
You said that, not me.
Oh, by the way, we will invite Stephen Greer to be in the documentary. We will invite all the people. Gary Nolan. I've asked Hal Puthoff to be interviewed already. Hal Puthoff, Bob, why are you being mean to me? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Hal, I met you on the psychic stuff in the early 90s. Welcome back to my journalistic room, it's all about truth. How? Truth. Now, by the way, I don't know this to be true. I heard it's true from very knowledgeable sources. Hal Puthoff apparently was the go-between between Bob Bigelow and the guy who bought Skin Oak Ranch.
Yeah, well, I think that's in print. That's actually in print somewhere.
Why was that? Why would Hal Puthoff operate as a escrow guy? What?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one who approached Brandon Fugal and said, "Hey, do you want to buy a haunted ranch?" Basically.
Well, anyway, I just think because tonight was about alien autopsy somewhat, I want to make sure people realize there's going to be another round now. There is an attempt by these people, apparently in England, to continue their fraud, to convince people that there was, just so no one gets confused tonight before we end.
Yeah.
When Santilli and the alien autopsy was revealed to be a fraud in my first show, World's Greatest Hoaxes, but we didn't debunk the brightly lit scene because we said we don't know who made that film. I found that filmmaker or special effects guy around 2002. He signed a non-disclosure agreement with me, or I should say I signed it, guaranteeing that I would never tell who he was until we got a full documentary so he could reveal the fraud. Santilli and the company in England called Warner Brothers UK, they rushed that movie out there called Alien Autopsy. And that established for everybody for all time the ridiculous claim that he had real film footage. He had a real cameraman played by Harry Dean Stanton, the late Harry Dean Stanton in the movie.
Yeah, and the reality is that when Bob pushed him to talk to the cameraman or get questions answered, they filmed a homeless man in a hotel room and made him pretend that he was the cameraman that filmed this alien autopsy.
The company that wants to maybe pact with me on this new series that will hopefully reestablish this programming on other channels besides History Channel, thank God. I mean, the bottom line is that you have what did you just say? I forgot what I said. You said something a second ago. I was going to comment on that. It was
the fake cameraman, homeless man.
When you hear how they concocted this, they didn't know I was searching for this special effects guy to expose all fraud, but I had already been on that track. So finally, I get a call. It was way before I found the guy. Way before. He calls me up, Ray Santilli, and he says, "Bob, get ready to go to New York. I'm living in California. I had no reason to go back to New York." He says, "I know you have your family in New York. Get ready to visit Mom." I said, "Ray, cut the crap. Why would I be going to New York?" At this point, New York Times wrote an article about our third broadcast. We hadn't done World's Greatest Hoaxes yet. So Ray said, "You go to New York. I'll meet you there, and you're going to meet the cameraman." I can't believe it. I tell Fox, "I'm on my way." They're chuckling. They don't trust this guy at all any more than I do. So I go to New York, and I told this company that wants to make this full series with me the story. So I'm not going to give it all away today. But the story is pretty basic. Ray doesn't show up. His underling, Gary Shufield, shows up. I was supposed to walk into this hotel in Midtown Manhattan, which I did. While I'm walking into the lobby, this guy, Gary Shufield, says, "Bob, I know you expected Ray to be here, but it's me. But you're about to meet the cameraman's son."
Oh, jeez. So you flew all the way to New York from California, 8-hour flight.
I said, "Gary, I'm fuming. I'm fuming now, you know. Gary, I travel 3,000 miles. And don't bring up my mother. Don't bring up my family. It has nothing to do with me living from New York. You wasted my time. You wasted Fox's time." Because no. I'm telling you, you gave us 25 questions. We had the cameraman look at them. The son helped film the cameraman. It's on tape. It's an interview. I go, "You're kidding me." So, knock, knock, knock. Guy walks in. I'll save the rest for this other show.
Oh, he's the cameraman's son. Yeah, but it turns out to be
you know the history. I mean,
yeah, it turns out to be a homeless man. They paid in a motel room to pretend to be the cameraman. Yeah,
tried to convince me, but you gotta give them a little bit of credit. They recognize they gotta produce material. They can't just tell a story like Grusch. They have to develop something. So Fox is aware I'm in LA now. I got this guy, Gary Shufield, in a hotel room. So sure enough, the Fox executive, Mike, comes to the hotel, looks at the interview, goes, get out of here, we're leaving. This guy is sitting with a hat on. He's answering questions like, no, yes, maybe. And so when I saw the movie Alien Autopsy out of England, I was in shock. They had the audacity to brag how they faked me and the Fox network out. They didn't.
Yeah, and you were not fooled, and even in the least.
But get this one.
But he's really going to try to do a resurgence of this thing, because his original claim is that the footage was real, but it disintegrated, so they made a recreation. So what? Now he's going to show us the real footage? Or
So
how are they going to continue this?
The catch is that I mentioned this first alien autopsy that has things coming out of the aliens' private parts and whatever. It's just really ridiculous. That's one part of the audacious, obvious, fraudulent nature of this stuff. But then the cameraman footage pushes it to a next level. However, the next level is, if you watch the 17-minute autopsy, Bob Kiviat or Steve Camion, as Ray Santilli claims, and Gary Shufield claims, you can see in one particular sequence the real footage. Somehow the real footage is mixed together with the
recreation
footage.
Oh, come on.
And he even points to where it is. Now, I will say this. When I show it either in my documentary feature as part of my alien autopsy story coverage to end it once and for all, which I intend to, or the company, which I probably prefer better, does the big series with me with that channel we're talking about, or that platform we're talking about, you're going to see this whole thing play out, Steve. You're going to see how.
Well, that'll be interesting to get something new out of it.
Yeah, you're going to see how ridiculous. And not only that, like I said, the audaciousness of these fraudsters needs to be looked at, because we might find other hoaxers come out in the next few years because of all this government tomfoolery and nonsense. You might see some other audacious hoaxes pop out. We pointed out in World's Greatest Hoaxes that as technology increases and video fakes, as we know, deep fakes, that's the next worry we have, right?
No, what about the AI stuff? Do you know there's already people that are making money? Third Phase of Moon made money off of fake Roswell images, and they were 100% AI generated. I knew it as soon as I looked at them, because there's still problems with the AI photo generators. They don't do feet well. They don't do hands well. They don't do people well in certain scenes. And so people are already faking UFO stuff with AI.
Here's the thing I want to leave your audience with. The reason why I could use the help from the public to make these things, sort of like, imagine PBS. When you watch PBS, and I know people are sensitive to, here's Bob coming on saying we need money for the production. Let's make it clear.
It's no different than people posting a GoFundMe and never giving anybody anything back.
Yeah, when people
it's
realize,
a better system. Yeah.
The opportunity that this marketing method allows people to be part of, which is they can get their investment back, they can feel part of something, they can help bring truth to the society that we live in, and they can have impact. You know, when you watch Nova or you watch PBS, and I still watch sometimes, Frontline, you see that corporations have to fund these documentary programs.
Yeah.
All kinds of grants and all that. Unfortunately, I want your viewers to know today, that is where we are. If you want crap, if you want the Grusches, I'm going to name them right now. Let's just go in linear order. The Gringers, the Corbells, I'm going to weaponize my imagination. You mean you're going to bullshit everybody with George Knapp's lower hanging fruit stories that can never go anywhere, in my humble opinion. Number two, if you want to make a difference, push back on these people. Say, look, you claim Grusch. Who is it you're talking about? What are they showing you? Give us some proof of what you're talking about. If you don't do that, you look ridiculous. Let's go back to the LA Times. When they did a Fox story about alien, and they mentioned Alien Autopsy a bunch of years ago, and they tagged the end of the article with, the story now is that it was reconstructed from a film that disintegrated, whoever. Why wouldn't that paper even if it took a couple of days, track down the claim, say, look, Santilli, where in the film is the real footage? You claim there's real footage in there. You claim it. Show me where. Now, spoiler alert, there is a place in that 17-minute autopsy that has puzzled me a little bit over the years. By no means does it mean it's a real alien or anything, but it looks slightly different. If that's what they're talking about, let's bring it up.
Well, couldn't it be that they spliced some footage from the other body that you mentioned? They made 2 latex bodies, so maybe they had 2 takes, and they could have spliced some of that in.
I would never say it's been conclusively debunked and conclusively done the right way, because these people are very shady. They don't really want to give you access to the full story.
Sure.
He's been claiming for the moment he appeared in 1995. Bob, we have real frames. Just show us a couple of frames even.
Then he tried to sell one for $1 million recently, didn't he?
Not one frame, Steve. It was all that. What's that called? You're much more knowledgeable than me. What are those like digital? They're digital valuations. It's not even a real frame. He never showed a frame to anybody, like an auction. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, NFT. Yeah, an NFT. Yeah.
It was never proven he had any frames at all. In fact, he has failed miserably in presenting any concrete evidence. There was a cameraman from Cleveland. There was ever Elvis Presley footage that the guy claimed to be shooting, and that's why he tipped him. Hey, by the way, I got something else to show you, as Jonathan Frakes says for my words I wrote. I mean, it's a great story, but Steve, it's my responsibility to make sure, because I put that out there, to make sure it gets resolved. And it will be resolved, in my humble opinion, probably by that series that this other group wants to make. I believe that.
Yeah, I for one can tell you that I think I speak for everybody. I would totally watch a series that broke down like how this thing was created, the cultural impact, how you and others, how you brought in all these experts, and the aftermath of when it's fake, and the still attempts to profit from it, even after all these years. They're still trying to make money from that thing.
These are the most audacious hoaxers. If you study hoaxing, and you have to, Orson Welles, most people know him to be a great filmmaker. At the end of his life, he was really focused on what's real and what's not. He has a documentary called F is for Fake. You got to see this. It's a very unique documentary.
Oh, check it out. Yeah, I like Orson Welles.
He ties together art fakers. This one art faker who can imitate Picasso and imitate people, artists beautifully. And it took years to track this guy down and prove he was a fraud. Clifford Irving, the Howard Hughes fraud. I mean, there you go. Biography fraud. Not to mention, again, the Hitler Diaries.
The Hitler Diaries was a big one, yeah.
These are case studies, and Santilli is now, I believe, bar none, the most audacious of all.
Well, don't you think, listen, if it turns out that Grusch never comes through with any kind of an evidence, he's kind of close, though. But the cultural impact, one thing I was taking careful note of and noticing, I had a few people that are neighbors, friends, relatives that know what kind of a show I do ask me about this Dave Grusch thing, but only a very few, or maybe, actually, no, I probably had like 20 people. But when Alien Autopsy came out, everybody was talking about it. Like everybody. I know. It was so much more impactful. So I guess you're right.
Yeah, your memories of it are great. And I want to remind you, as a young guy, we brought in 2 of the top pathologists in the world.
I remember, yeah.
Now, truth be told, everybody thought I was kind of like, creating a little more mystique, because I brought in Cyril Wecht, because he was well known to believe the JFK assassination was a conspiracy. But because of one particular piece of evidence, not so much the autopsy itself, it's the bullet that was laying on the gurney on where Governor Connolly was laying when they brought him to the hospital in the JFK assassination. Cyril Wecht felt that bullet that was a pristine, out of the box almost, laying on the gurney in the hospital, found by one of these, how
did that break skulls and
how did it
bones
go through bone off Connolly?
Yeah.
Kennedy's bone, it would be a mushed in front. So I believe that Cyril Wecht might be a conspiracy monger, but he also would be very scientific, and he was. And then, of course, we have C.L. Milroy. This guy had done thousands of autopsies in England. He had no axe to grind. He was not a
Yeah, it was interesting that you got actual experts that have done a lot of autopsies to look at it.
Stan Winston said, which turned out to be true, God bless Stan. He said, I would hire this guy like that if it's fake, meaning it was a level that he could relate to of skill. He could relate to it. So that's why I called him on the way to the airing here on the West Coast, the premiere episode. I called Stan. I said, Stan, as a journalist and a producer, I must hear from you. One more time. Tell me what you believe the autopsy looks like to you. He said, Bob, you heard me. If anybody ever came to me and said they made that, I would hire him like that.
That's
don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
He says, I don't know how it was done, some parts of it. I'd like to know. It's Stan Winston we're talking about here.
Yeah. And
So
back then, and this is before
phones,
this is before everything was CGI.
Yeah. So I said to myself, going to the airing party that we had, I walked in, everybody was ready for the airing. I said, we're good. If Stan feels that, we're not saying it's real, but it justifies being on the Fox network in prime time. And the millions of people that tuned in for 5 different airings, as the executive Mike Darnell tells everybody that will ask, it ran 5 times, and he always says, and it rated every time, which means it got the ratings every time, almost the same rating. Imagine 60, 70 million people.
Stand by. I'm sorry. I was frozen there for a moment.
But 80 million people in the 3 airings, roughly.
Yeah, and I don't think that this Grusch interview got anywhere near that.
Oh my God. I don't even know what, Steve, I'll be frank with you. I came on today with a real goal to make sure people realize this is nothing compared to the buzz that was going on then, not just about alien autopsy, about the belief in UFOs. And there's a reason. We were seeing more and more videos being shot with home cameras than we're seeing now, to, like, I guess, the 10th degree, whatever, minus 10, whatever it would be. So something's going on. Like I said, we're going to do this series development. A group approached me, and they interested in the 100. We're going to call it something like the 100 greatest UFO video hotspots, where we're going to show people 100 videos shot all over the world and space that make this look like a joke. It is a joke. A joke.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see these new projects.
Your kids are younger than mine, right? Your kids. My kids came over recently, and they're watching one of my specials, UFOs Caught on Tape 1, and one of the kids goes, Dad, there's more footage here.
It beats those 3 TTSA footage things.
It's unbelievable.
That all turned out to be nothing burgers.
Yeah, I thought when I saw this breaking, I thought it would last a few weeks. I thought a journalist would get involved. Not one.
Well, the problem with the story keeping going here is that there's nothing else for the true believers. So that's just going to go with this, this guy said it, so let's wait for evidence. And now there's supposed to be hearings. And one of the things that's disturbing to me is that if anybody of any different other belief system wanted to waste taxpayer dollars on their belief system, we would not allow that. If the Scientologists went to Congress and said, we want you to prove Xanadu's real and that Scientology is awesome, we wouldn't do that. But the UFO people are doing it.
Only because you brought it up. By the way, I love your show because we can talk about almost anything, and it's great. Scientology has taken on a whole new advertising campaign. Have you seen what's going on television? I don't know if you watch it.
No.
I watch a lot. The reason that I watch pretty much only live sports. Me and my kids love baseball. We love sports. My 2 kids are sports management gurus. They're going to be into that field. The bottom line is, when you watch live sports these days, invariably during the NBA playoffs, you're going to see these Scientology commercials, and they're trying to gloss it up and sound like it's, hey, dude, you're talking about a religion that believes alien entities have somehow come into our body
Yeah.
and need to be
They don't
taken
tell
out.
you that until you're $500,000 in.
And he claims, come down, check us out. Well, the first thing I would do if I saw a commercial like that in prime time during the NBA finals would be, I want to see where you keep the alien research. I want to see where you keep the little researchers, whatever you claim, these things coming into the bodies that you got to remove. But here's what I don't understand. Journalists like the New York Times, they didn't even know that Hal Puthoff is believed to be, was, or probably still is, a Scientologist. Now, the only reason I know that is in the pre-interviews with our CIA expert, he's going to point out, if it's truth be told, Truthseekers, that there's a Scientology angle to a lot of this fraud going on. So I think there's two religions in the world, Steve, and I'm not going to talk about the other one today. But I think people will figure it out if they study me a little bit and go to the internet and see things about, I've been involved in different things the last 5 years or so, let's say. There's two religions that seem to not give a crap about truth and aliens. And that's Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard is a science writer. He made up
Science
Scientology.
fiction, yeah.
He made it up like he's writing a book, Dianetics. And then we have this other religion that comes out of upstate New York, where I come from, where I'm from. You know, I went to school, college, journalism degree in upstate New York. And that's where this other religion came from. And that religion doesn't have a problem talking about plates that maybe have given.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you. So the Mormons, there's a lot of people in Scientology. Well, listen, we've talked about religion here. It's okay. I'll be respectful, but there's a lot of people involved in the UFO world that are either Scientologists or Mormons, both of which have very specific beliefs in alien life and things. So it could be an influence.
Hey, by the way, I'll throw one other genre or business that seems to be prolific in the world you're talking about, Salt Lake City. It would be network marketing.
They're big on that.
Amway, Newskin. Look into this. The idea that you could bamboozle people for money, if it comes with the right intentionality, i.e. your own religious beliefs are maintained, your connection to God, let's say, is maintained because you're doing something for the benefit of mankind, but lying is okay. As long as
I mean, I lost a friend to Scientology years ago, and he still all chips in, and and it's unfortunate, but this guy runs around trying to recruit people, and occasionally I still see him. He still lives in the area, and I asked him one time, "Do you tell people about the Xanadu and the entities stuck on them when they first start?" They don't. Yeah, the Thetas. They don't do that. They come at you and make you take these courses that are like $100 on effective communication, improving your family life, and things like that seem very harmless. And some people do get some benefit from these sort of self-help things, but they make you plow money at them, and they pressure you to max out your credit card. They do so many destructive things.
You can hear now what you just said.
He doesn't tell people that. And he said, no, they'll Scientology will save the world if we could just get this many people clear. And so he's just lost.
Listen, not only is Alien Autopsy a great mirror to what's happening right now, but what you're describing right now gives like license to people like Stephen Greer and Elizondo and Corbell and all these people to put out bullshit, because you know what? Those religions, they're backing bullshit also. So what the hell? Let's just throw bullshit around. The problem is there is a real UFO phenomenon. There's no doubt there's a UFO
I absolutely agree with you, yeah.
Presidents have said it. People in the highest levels of the government, not these people. I have an interview that I cherish in UFOs Caught on Tape #1 for Fox. Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, former director of the National Security Agency, Deputy Director of the CIA, #2 at the CIA. He goes into an entire analysis of our videos that we put on the Fox network. He says he's been misquoted
by believers before. That's why he wants to come on the show. I say that to all the people I'll be interviewing, whether it be Gary Nolan, Hal Puthoff. You get your chance to say what you want, but listen, don't blank around here, because if guys like Admiral Inman, who was thought to be maybe Secretary of Defense, but passed up with Clinton, but was going to be before the New York Times, William Safire wrote a bad article about him and didn't want to expose his family to it. He was going to be a Secretary of Defense. This guy who ran two of our spook agencies basically is telling the world, I can't explain that footage over Mexico. I can't explain that footage over Air 51. I think they may be military, but I don't know. And those are the kind of videos I want people to start hearing about, talking about. And it looks to me like we have to kind of skip over this 2016 Trump-induced, I believe, almost like psychosis on America.
I mean, I call it the false disclosure movement. You know, they promised us all kinds of things, and all we got was 3 grainy videos that took 5 years to figure out were worthless.
But anyway,
but everybody filled their pockets with lots of UFO dollars, Bob. So it's not all bad. If you're the guy selling the stories, you know.
That's why I want people to understand that if they want to enlist me to go out and try to get to all the facts and put into a nice box called a show or a series, we need a little bit of help. The parameters have changed. The goalposts have changed.
I get that.
There are these streaming models that require self-financing, areas that I've not had to worry about before. Now I do. And so if people have even the slightest interest in contacting me, it's very easy to do, either through Steve or I guess we'll figure out a way Steve will list something. Try to get in contact with me, because we're not talking about a lot of money here. And we can get enough people together and make the Greers, the Corbells, and all that leave the goddamn playing field. Let's get people that know how to do this stuff, who are top journalists, who have been working for major organizations. One last thing on this whole point. Mike Darnell, the Fox executive for Alien Autopsy, and many of my shows, all my shows really at Fox, he goes to the TV Academy to be honored for like the leadership in reality TV, American Idol, and all that stuff he's done at Fox 5 years ago. So he's being honored at the TV Academy. And right away, the host of this thing goes, Mike, it all began with Alien Autopsy. Let's take a look. They show a piece and everyone talks. And who's not going to watch that? Who's not going to watch that? So Mike then says the story about me bringing the footage to him and everything else. But he says the one thing that I really want people to hear. We had to cover the alien vagina. Now, look, both the first film that shows it was a fraud completely, with the things being pulled out of the alien vagina, or the bright lit scene that we know called the alien.
You said orifice before, and I was thinking they were pulling something out of its ear. Now hear we're pulling it out of the vag.
We're talking female here, okay? So Mike said something at the TV Academy, which is on video. We're going to show probably in our show, or maybe the guys that did the series on Alien Autopsy will show it. And Mike says, now when we aired it the second time, it rated really high the first time. So they said, you can show the brain. You can show the brain. He's like, you can show the brain now. You can show more of the brain. But he goes, my broadcast standards, that's right, broadcast standards made me digitize the area by there. He says, but when you saw the footage, there was nothing there. But now when you put that there, it looks like something's there. Now, it's a true and not true thing. There was something there.
The mystery of the alien vag.
It looked female to me in the lower part, and there were no breasts on the body. So they really were playing around here, whoever did this, right? But he mentions broadcast standards. Thank you. When we make shows for NBC,
there's no standards now. They're gone.
There's no one even watching. I want your people, if they invest a little bit in me to make this next feature doc, right? Do you know that I still feel Darlene, her name is Darlene L. We won't share the last name. I still have Darlene L in my brain, always. What will Darlene think? Darlene was a broadcast standards maven at Fox Network. Literally, she watched every show and made notes of every second. And if she saw one frame, one picture,
one thing that didn't look right, a claim that wasn't. It was all vetted.
Yeah.
Steve.
Now the
Where's
problem
the
is
vetting now?
everything since then seems to be just very believer based, and there's no pushback, no verification, there's no
It's all
fact
money.
checking. Yeah,
It's all money. Nobody cares. Clickbait article started off the New York Times. The first moment I read it that Saturday or Friday, it was released on the internet. You could tell it was a paltry job of investigation. They gave Hal Puthoff this illustrious background government guy. Are you kidding me? He scammed the government with CIA faking around. I mean, psychic evidence that really didn't match.
He wasted a lot of taxpayer money on that garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only one. There was another guy named Alexander. Have you heard about him?
Yes. Yeah.
So whether you have, I mean, I'm naming names now, Steve. We're about to do this Ufologics feature doc. We're shooting interviews starting this month. We're going to do Mandela Effect at the same time we're doing this one. That's the other movie with Screen Media. We are absolutely gearing up for major production. So if anybody, look, everybody wants to make a little extra money. What's wrong with having a piece of a movie that you see a residual income every month? Maybe you invested $5,000 in this movie, and maybe you got back your $5,000 and your 30% back right away. But every month you're getting a little check, 500.
Yeah, with this economy, everybody needs some extra
Who doesn't
income.
want that? So we're giving people the opportunity to come into Hollywood the right way. And by the way, we don't need Darlene L as our broadcast standards. We already think like that. We're not even going to change one bit. We want to make sure no one at home streams the movie and contacts me the next day going, look, you made a mistake. That's not true. That's not right. I'm always worried about being found out or not doing my homework properly as a writer, journalist. So where are the people that care about that, Steve? I don't know where they are anymore. No one seems to care about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're going to be making new projects, and pleasure to have you here. Don't be a stranger. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Yeah.
And look, like if anyone contacts you, like I said, everything's very above board.
Yeah, I might. By the way, I know somebody that may be very interested, so I'll email you off air.
We're ready to shoot next month, so we love you. By the way, we'd love to have you involved. We think of all the shows to profile in the movie. I think Truthseekers says it all. I think that's definitely a spot.
Yeah, that would be my pleasure. That would
love
be
to turn around on you.
All right, Bob. Well, thank you very much. And after I throw you out of here, you can just close down your browser and you're good. So don't be a stranger. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Have a good evening. All right. All right. What a great conversation, friends. And I kind of agree with him. You know, we've got people out there that are crowdfunding with GoFundMe and things like that, and they don't ever give an accounting. You know, we've got people like Greer said, well, I need $500,000 to make this documentary. And then he makes the documentary with that $500,000. Then he gets paid from streaming services. Then he gets paid from, he gets paid from the streaming services. He gets paid from whatever. Bob's a little more credible and reputable than some of those people. So if you're interested, you know, I highly encourage you to consider helping him make his new projects. You may also be aware that Manny from Area 503 is working with him on these projects. So so we're going to take a very, very short break here to remind you that we are a viewer-supported show. So we are supported by the kindness, generosity, and support of viewers like you. And I love and thank that we did get a few super chats during the interview. But just in the interest of Bob being here, listen, I will read them on the other side of our break here. So we will be right back, friends. And the show is not over. I've got more time to share with you and some updates for you that are important. So please stick around. We'll be right back.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
Greetings and salutations, friends. We're back. So, two things that a few things that we need to do, and that is to clear up some business here. We got some super chats during the interview, and with respect to the supporters who I love and value very much, I think going forward with the interviews, especially important ones like this, we will put your super chat on the screen when you put it up, but we will read them after the interviews. So I think that is the best way to do it going forward, because I've tried to do these interviews and we want to recognize and thank each and every one of you. We'll always do that, but it makes things difficult to stop the flow of things. So we want to thank My Flock is Everywhere for a kind and generous 99-cent super sticker. We thank Eventide. Have you ever looked into the Mormon connection? Yes, we did talk about that. I think that's an important point, and thank you, Eventide, for your kindness, generosity, and support. John Chow with a kind and generous $5 super chat. Why am I having trouble reading these now? I'll see if I can find them. Chuck Bam with a kind and generous $2 super chat. Says, good interview, thank you. And UFO Shane with a kind and generous $5 says, this is going to be a good one. Koala with a kind and generous $1.99 super sticker. 1 second, let me make sure that I got them all here. No, I did. Yeah, we did get them all, and I can read that one. From John Chow. Gautier Event Horizon claimed in comments on the new Loeb video that the Army bought Art's parts and that they can levitate. Turns out TTSA bought them. Well, the issue is a little more complicated than that, because TTSA bought them from Linda Moulton Howe for some, I believe it was $30,000, and then entered into some kind of a contract with the Army, who wanted to study them, even though they were thoroughly debunked as nothing special. And even Art Bell, who originally received them, thought that they were junk and garbage. But that will show you a little bit about how these things take hold. So we'll also be taking comments and questions from the live chat. I've also been notified that we're having trouble streaming to your Rumble destination. It's possible that the stream was ended or deleted on the destination. This can also occur if the RTMP server URL or stream key is incorrect. If that's the case, we'll upload to Rumble as soon as we're finished. Spooky with a kind of generous $2 says, whatever happened to the Atom Project? Nothing. It was a nothing burger. They teased it that it was going to be some big deal, and all of the UFO believers argued with me. This is going to be the smoking gun proof and evidence of alien contact on Earth. And I said, I don't think anything will come of this. We got that story right as well. It was a big nothing burger. The Atom Project was supposed to be Lou Elizondo and TTSA running around and grabbing all this supposedly alien crash retrieval material and then showing the evidence, the proof. And we never got any evidence. We never got any proof. Could it be because there was none? I think so. I think they did analyze a lot of the materials that they had and couldn't find anything to spin it as alien. So that project got dropped. Now, I also will be taking comments and questions from the live chat for some time now. I have more time to share. Miss Ree says, I agree, Stephen. Super chat shout out afters. Yeah, if I'm doing a show solo, well, see, this is where it gets complicated, because sometimes I get into these very data-rich presentations. You know, we actually do presentations here on a regular basis. The next one we'll be doing is something that I've been working on very diligently. We did our not so brief history of UFO whistleblowers. I've got another part 2 of a not so brief history of UFO whistleblowers, including those would include Dan Burrish and others, the Area 51 whistleblower from convicted, let's just call him a convicted kitty toucher. YouTube doesn't like that word. Wendell Stevens and other so-called UFO whistleblowers that all turned out to be complete and totally frauds. And by the way, I'm not saying that Dave Grusch is lying. I'm not saying that Dave Grusch, his credentials are great. All I'm saying is that we should be very, very cautious when evaluating the claims of UFO whistleblowers, because history is a great teacher. And history teaches us that in the history of UFO whistleblowers, what we get is claims and stories. But what we never get is the evidence to prove those claims or stories or back up those claims or stories. So comments or questions for me, please put them in all capital letters. And I also just want to address, I guess, some drama still that's happening and has been happening and probably will continue to happen. And that is that I've said this 10 times. I've said it 100 times, but people still do not hear me. And I want to make it very clear. I'll say it one more time. Somebody coming here as a guest is not a rubber stamp of approval from me on everything they've ever said, everything they've ever written, everything they've ever claimed. It's just not. When people come here, it's for a conversation. And, I use this show and this webcam and this microphone as sort of a backstage pass to get me access to some of these people. Tonight is a perfect example. Without this show, I would have never gotten to meet, talk to, and even get to know one of my childhood heroes who produced so much stuff I watched as a child. And I have incredibly fond memories of watching Unsolved Mysteries and the other things that Mr. Kiviat produced with my father. And I would have never gotten to talk to him in a million years without a show. What am I going to do? Just call the guy up and we've had him here. I think this is his third time here. So that would mean I got to talk to the producer of Alien Autopsy and Unsolved Mysteries and all these other shows for like 6 hours. I would never get to do that without this show. So the show gives me sort of a passport into some incredible and interesting people. Now, with that being said, we are going to have guests here who are interesting, but also controversial. And we have had guests in the past. And one problem that I'm continually having is, and this problem doesn't seem to ever let up, is that someone will come here and be a guest. And then people who do not like that person for whatever reason will start to literally harass me. Why didn't you bring this up? Why didn't you bring that up? What, are you giving this person a pass or that person? We don't give anybody a pass here. And we always have to be kind and respectful to people who come here and be a guest. But I just want to make it extremely clear again that just because we have a conversation with somebody here doesn't mean I am endorsing everything they've ever said, everything they've ever written. And there have been multiple examples of this where somebody said something 20 years ago and people keep throwing it into my face. They're like, why didn't you ask him about this? I didn't know that person said that 20 years ago. And people say wacky things. So I always say, take it up with them. And likewise, sometimes we have guests here who for whatever reason, let me be very honest. Some people that we've brought here have a lot of enemies out there on the internet who don't like them for whatever reason. They have some business dispute. They're jealous of them. Whatever the reason is. And then people attack me, sometimes publicly on Facebook or Twitter posts, for hosting that individual. We won't have a show here without having some good guests. I mean, I could do a solo show every day. I'd prefer not to. I like the interviews. I think the audience likes the interviews. So I just want to be very clear in saying that somebody being a guest here is not an endorsement of everything they've ever said, everything they've ever written. I can't possibly know everything everybody's ever said. I do try to research guests, but there's always going to be some kind of disputes that some of these guests have with other people. So I would invite you, if you have a problem with a guest here, I mean, sure, you can. And by the way, some people just informed me, like, did you know they said this? How, whatever. And they send me screenshots or they send me that I don't mind. But when people start attacking me for having certain guests here, it becomes a real problem. And to be very, very honest, it's summertime right now, which, for better or worse, is my most stressful time of the year. And that is because I have my 2 children home with me all day and all night. And then there's no break, because then the weekend comes and my wife has done work for the week and we have to all jump in a car together and spend the weekend at the cabin. And for anybody that's ever had a vacation with their children, that's also known as a yeah right. It's not very. I try. We relax as much as we can, but you're running around chasing. I'm running around chasing 2 kids through the woods at the cabin, and here I'm running around chasing them through this big house, trying to stop disasters or literal fires. Like, it's a long story, but summer is my most stressful time. And some of you know that I'm the primary caretaker of my 11-year-old son, who is nonverbal autistic. He is extremely autistic, extremely handicapped. And so he requires 100% attention, 100%. You can't leave him alone for a minute. You have to spend every moment with him. He needs a constant attention, care. And, he just had dental surgery. And so he's unable to communicate what's going on. And so he's been having meltdowns lately, which is very stressful. And, we try to make him feel better. I just try to love him back to being in a good mood, loving kindness. I repeat that to myself, because it's easy to get angry with the child who can't communicate because he's screaming at you for hours a day on bad days. I guess my whole point, and I'm being extremely as honest as I can here, is that summer is my most stressful time. I've got a lot of things going on with my family, and I don't need to be harassed by people who don't like a guest. So, I'm just putting it out there. If you're a human being that has some sort of sympathy or empathy or emotion, you won't do that to me. Go to the person that you have the problem with and take it up with them. I'm not here to defend, by the way. I just want to be clear on that too. If somebody said wackadoo things however long ago, I'm not defending them. If they said something untrue, I'm not defending that. I just can't get involved in these personal squabbles and all of this drama. All of my patience, all of my energy is really needed for my family, and especially my autistic child right now. I don't have time for people that want to send me 25-page emails detailing everything somebody has said for the past. And by the way, sometimes we have, let's just call them veteran researchers here, right? Guys are a little older, so they have a history. And so people send me all this stuff, and then they demand that I do something. You should do a show exposing this thing that somebody said 20 years ago. Like, I can't do it. So I am appealing to anybody's hopefully good human nature to say, especially right now, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the patience. All my patience needs to be saved for my son, who I'm the primary caretaker of. He's my main responsibility. And internet drama can't hold a candle to how important it is to me to take care of my son. Whether he doesn't mean to, but he burns out every bit of my patience in a 10-hour day. And then my wife comes home and I get a little break before the show starts. I just mean to say, if you have a problem with a guest, especially if it's, and by the way, a lot of times some of this stuff is personal, and then it's also territorial. Have a guest that busted some UFO celebrity, so that UFO celebrity or their followers will come and start making demands of me and my time, and I can't do it. I just can't do it. I've even considered strongly the possibility of having no guests going forward, just so I don't have to deal with that, because this is becoming quite a problem. And by the way, also, just to be clear, it's not one guest. it's several. And to those several guests who generate a lot of hatred, I've reached out to them today. And I said, with respect, I just can't deal with what comes with hosting you. So I'm going to revisit this decision to just not bring you on for a while. And most of the people involved with this kind of situation understand. They got back to me, and by the way, there's no hard feelings. If I just say I can't deal with what comes with bringing you here as a guest, because certain people, when I bring them here as a guest, I'm going to deal with 25 nasty emails, people tweeting at me all day, Facebook messages. Somebody got a hold of my phone number not long ago, so I even get texts, and I've even gotten threatening, nasty voicemails and phone calls about some of the guests here. And again, I don't want to shy away from having interesting, controversial people here, but at this time, right now, for all the reasons I mentioned, I just have to cool it with certain people who generate that kind of controversy, that kind of drama, that kind of hatred. And it's nobody's fault that some of these guests generate that. Some people are just controversial. And some people, I will say this, some people do work that is dangerous to the grifter squad. Let's just say that. Some of the guests I've had have done work that is very dangerous to the UFO grifters. So when we bring them here, there is a deluge to deal with that comes with them. It's not just having them here for a few hours and then the next day I get a couple of messages. We've had guests here where, and some people know, some of the people that are involved with this kind of stuff, but we've had guests here which will generate 6 months of harassing emails, phone calls, messages from one appearance. And in certain cases, it dies down for after a while, but there are some people I'm still getting messages about. I got tweeted about one of these individuals that I'm concerned with bringing here again today. And then yesterday and the day before, like certain people just generate this deluge of controversy and hatred and harassment. And I have to focus on my family. So, and by the way, I hate to, distance myself from anybody, but I just can't deal with that kind of stuff. So going forward, there's certain people that you may have seen here before that you might not see for a while. It doesn't mean they'll never be back. It just means I can't deal. I have to cut everything that's stressful or time consuming or a drain on me out of my existence for the next bunch of months while I focus on my children and my family and other things that I'm sure most of you will agree are more important than somebody not liking a certain personality for whatever drama or reasons, or, so that's where we're at with that. And I think I missed a few comments here. Oh, troll. If I send you $5, can I see Marina Sarin flicking the bean? Not from me. She may still have. Oh, and by the way, I'm glad that you reminded me, Troll. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And also thank you for being a member. And thanks to all of you for being a member and a Patreon supporter. By the way, I have a new album, and it is now available, the preview, which it's the same master. We'll be debuting another new music album of mine. I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend or next weekend. But we'll be debuting it soon. It's already on the Patreon and on the members only section. So if you weren't aware of that, there's a new album from me to listen to. Let me know what you guys think in the comments to those videos. And next, thank you to all the Patreon supporters. And as far as Marina Sarin, I am aware that L.A. Marzulli, Mr. Christian, just interviewed Marina Sarin, the Nazi girl. And we're going to be covering that for multiple reasons. And, hindsight is always 2020. For those unaware, L.A. Marzulli was going to come here and be a guest. And he left me for an hour talking about his research, and he never showed up. And then I talked to him. He claimed that he was stuck on a plane or something, and we rescheduled. And then he left me here for a half hour or 45 minutes talking with no guest the second time. And then the next day or the day after that, he was on a, let's just say, grifter show. And I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I was told by someone who I trust that a certain Slimeball show host who has a lot of influence told him not to be on our show. And that's why he no-showed twice. Speaking of drama, let's just get it all out on the table. But hindsight is always 20/20. And I was going to have L.A. Marzulli here, and we were going to grill him on some of the claims that he has made about the Nephilim and many other things. And then I got sidetracked, so we didn't. But considering L.A. Marzulli no-showed for us twice, I sent him an email today, and I was respectful, but I put him on warning. We're going to cover your interview with her. And did you know she was a Nazi, and talks about the good Nazis, and she was a SS reincarnated general, and she's in all of these, being interviewed by Nazi supporters and all these other things. It is what it is, but we'll be covering that interview and also some of the claims of L.A. Marzulli related specifically to L.A. Marzulli, for those who don't know, is a UFO researcher, sort of ancient mystery guy, mystery paranormal guy, but he's also very Christian, and that's his shtick. Richard Dolan has I'm the studious, scholarly history guy, like a history professor. That's his shtick. L.A. Marzulli is, I'm coming at this from a Christian perspective, but hindsight's always 20/20. I did have some very hard questions for him. He was probably wise to no-show on me twice, because when I show you some of the discrepancies between the claims and the, just the information that he presents as true or factual, especially when it relates to the Bible, I think he grossly misinterprets things to fit his narrative. We're going to talk about all of that. And by the way, I want to make sure everybody understands this is not some personal thing like, oh, now he no-showed on me twice. I'm going to give him an opportunity to come here after I've had sufficient time to prepare a presentation on some of his claims and how false they are. I'm going to send him all the research materials that I will present to you, my audience, and I will give him one final invitation to come here and talk about these things. So we'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. There's something else which is slipping my mind that I thought was an important announcement. Oh, this Thursday, we're going to be doing a triple cast. What does that mean? That means that we, remember a while ago, we tried to do simulcast, but we did it as sort of, we did sort of an attempt at simulcasting, and it didn't really go too well. But now there is a feature in StreamYard which allows you to easily simulcast. If you're a guest on a show, you can simulcast that stream right on your channel, and it's very easy. So this Thursday night, we're doing another special event. Let me share my screen to show you this. Sheila Aliens, who many of you may be aware, helped me with, she's been a guest here. She's that awesome girl who called out Third Phase of Moon ages ago before anybody else really was doing that. Sheila Aliens is awesome. She's just a fun chick and a friend. And so she asked me to be on this new show that she started. And it's a show with MK Ultra and Sheila. And their show is called What Was That? And what I told them was, I'm too busy to do guest spots, but if we can figure out a way that I can just play it on my channel as well, I'll do it. And we figured it out. So this Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be triple casting this. It's going to be on Sheila Alien's channel. It's going to be on our Truthseekers channel here. And it's going to be on MK Ultra. And what is it? MK Ultra. He's got this weird name. And that guy's an interesting guy, too. MK hiking and gear review. MK Ultra hiking and gear review. And the funny thing is that MK Ultra hiking and gear review is into all kinds of weird stuff that I'm into, like, you know, shelters in the woods and hiking and gear and all this kind of stuff. So I think that will be interesting night, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I will be live with Sheila Aliens and MK Ultra hiking and gear review. All three of our channels will be blasting this show out. We're going to be talking about Bob Lazar and Dave Grusch and Whistleblowers. I think they want to talk about sort of the similarities between Bob Lazar's claims and Grusch and some other things. Steve Long is here. Welcome, Steve Long. Appreciate the efforts and shows you put forth near daily, Stephen. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Oh, and you've reminded me, that's the other sort of announcement. So it is summertime, and historically, views go way down in the spring and the summertime because more people are going outside. So I consciously made the decision that I was only going to do 3 shows a week for the remainder of the summer. This will also give me a little more time with my family and friends and time to do things that are piling up. I got a honey-do list that I got to get to. You women know what I mean. And so I said I was only going to do 3 shows a week, but then we started premiering some things on the weekend, and I got such great feedback from it. And then also for a long time, people have been telling me that know this game better than me, that we should play some of our older episodes. A lot of you may or may not know, but we have like 700 live episodes on our channel. And a lot of those shows are great and gets ignored in favor of what's his new shows this week. So we've picked some of what I think are the best. We're going to call them Truthseekers classics. We picked some of the best, and we're going to be broadcasting those every night I'm not live. So going forward, it should be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, brand new live shows with me here. And the rest of the week at 9 p.m., a Truthseekers classic. We're going to try this for a few weeks. If it seems like there's no response or demand, or people aren't showing up for the premieres of these Truthseekers classic episodes, then we'll cut it. We'll cut it back, or we'll do it less, or whatever. But this will also give me, this also might interest many people, because we've got some incredible older interviews that most people haven't heard. Remember, when we started our channel here, I would do shows that get like 100 views or 200 views. Some of those early shows to this day still only have 300 views or something like that. There's some great cases. The Port Chatham Hairy Man mystery. We did a show on Vimanas that I thought was great. We did a show on that suicide forest in Japan. And interestingly, when I started the show, we had a lot more topics than just aliens and UFOs. So we want to get back to that. And so I thought playing these classic episodes will give people sort of a taste of let's cover all these strange and mysterious topics, and not be so focused on one particular topic in the paranormal world. We're gonna try this, and it'll start this Friday night at 9 p.m. I still haven't picked all of the classic episodes we'll be airing, but we're gonna do this. B. Baker is here and says, the people that demand that we provide documentation of every last assertion without doing research themselves are the ones that get me. Yeah. Yeah. And Mr. Ian says, we want the truth for our children. They don't deserve lies. I 100% agree. Archaic Revival. I understand, Stephen. I run a cat shelter. Love and kindness is the only way. The anger only kills the angry one. Yeah, you're right. That's my mantra. I lose my patience and I start getting angry. But luckily, through meditation, I have more emotional awareness, and I can feel that anger start to rise up in me, and I'm able to push it back, concentrate on loving kindness, and no matter how much my son is really getting to me, I just remind myself loving kindness. I hug him. I try to comfort him, do whatever I can to make him happy. and we move on with our lives. It's easy though to lose your patience with somebody that's having multi-hour meltdowns or screaming at you for a long time, and you're unable to. What do you want? You know, I try to feed him, give him a drink, whatever. Put on television he likes, give him a phone and give him a tablet. There's all the, you know, we have like a checklist when he's not happy what to do. Yeah, Patty Wilhelm says, I listen to anyone, we can always learn. Well, that's a good attitude to have. I think that's a great attitude to have. Yeah, maybe there. And Spooky, I'm going to talk to you off air. I would rather keep some things not public. Yes, Kevin correctly points out there's nothing Christian about Nazism. Well, in his defense, maybe he didn't know that besides being a starseed superpowered girl on OnlyFans who will dildo herself for $40 while calling out your name, she also happens to be very pro-Nazi, right? Spooky House of Cards show. Yeah, that's coming along. We're pecking along on the research on that, and I will talk to you about that off air as well. Yes, Mystery, and notice I'm saying that right. And by the way, thank you for being a member, says it will give us more time too. Yeah, and the one thing I'm going to ask is I'm going to always try to be in the live chat for these premieres, but I might have some nights where I just can't. And remember, the reason that everybody plays reruns is to give the people involved with the show a break. It's not a break if I have to sit there in the live chat for every minute of it. So I'll come in and say hello, but we've got great moderators that I will be instructing to thank for any super chats or whatever the case may be. Strange Recon Radio is here. I saw that one post of yours about the balloons and the communication system. I thought that was great. Strange Recon Radio is doing a great job over there. And I saw your struggles with Creative Cloud, but it's good that you got a big refund. And yeah, I refuse to do Creative Cloud. I don't believe that you should have to rent software. Unfortunately, a lot of Linux software just isn't up to the task of things like video editing. Graphics editing is fine on Linux, but there's a lot of things you need Windows for, unfortunately. Yeah. Mark D. Truthseeker US is Truth Searcher US. I always get that wrong. I apologize. Is here and says truth has become cloudy and difficult to see since so many allow their personal opinions to guide their judgment of others, which is good and bad. Yeah. B. Baker says serenity now. Yes. Michael says, I'm not sure if you answered this or not, but what are your thoughts on the John Michael Gautier? It's on my list. And Michael, if you know anything about me, you know that I try to not have my mouth in gear before I have facts in hand. So, you know, I want to thank My Flock is Everywhere for, I think, another 99-cent super sticker that I may have missed. And thanks you, My Flock is Everywhere, for being a member as well. So, Michael, I prefer to not put my mouth in gear before having my facts in hand. So he is one of the future shows. And until I've thoroughly researched, I'd rather just say that I'm looking into him and a lot of his materials, and we'll leave it at that. And you're very welcome. Never mind somebody asking. And by the way, if there is specific people or topics that you would like me to cover, a good way to get that to happen is to email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. I'd also like to invite you to please do follow me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion. Somebody asked about my shirt earlier. This is not one of ours. I think this was a Father's Day gift. It's Bigfoot and Little Bigfoot, but I'm the Papa Bigfoot. So there you go. Yeah. So B. Baker is kindly sharing Strange Recon Radio's YouTube channel. I did not, Sheila. Did you guys see the Beings from Beyond 2023 UFO documentary, new YouTube doc, show spotlights within the first 2 minutes as though it's UFO footage? Ugh. I'm going to take a look at that. And Sheila, I have already mentioned our show on Thursday night. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you and your friend there, who seems like my kind of guy. I'll leave it at that. I looked at his channel today. I'm like, this guy's into a lot of weird shit I love. Yeah, Human says he can only watch the first 20 minutes of it. You know it's bad when you shut off a free documentary, right? Yeah, you know it's bad. You know it's bad. Michael says, I think he said something along the lines of the Grusch case got Congress doing something that would be more than just hearsay or something along those lines, implying there could be truth to it. Yeah, but you got to be careful because we are in a low information zone right now. And you know, my whole thing with Grusch is really this: until we have and we see some actual evidence of his claims, they're just that. They're just claims. And I have been to this rodeo before with Bob Lazar and Clifford Stone and Corey Good and so many other people who claim to be whistleblowers. Philip Corso and so many others. And it just seems like if history is any indicator, you know, hey, maybe Grusch will be the first one to not be full of it and actually come forward with real evidence like he claims he has. But I find it all too convenient that he says he has evidence, but he can't show it to us. But he showed it to Congress. Okay. And also the people that are around Grusch or closely associated with Grusch, like Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Eric Davis, and others, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, he's literally in bed with all the people that have been lying to us for the past how many years now. And I get that people desperately want to believe that he's telling the truth, but you cannot throw away your discernment. You cannot throw away your ability to reason through his claims. There's no evidence here yet. That's all I'm saying. And again, someday I may be famous for this statement. If it turns out that Grusch is right and we have all this evidence, I will cream my pants instantly. I will cream my pants. I will cream in my pants if he comes through with actual evidence. And by evidence, I don't mean producing other people who say this is true or other people who are going to tell us stories. I mean evidence, hard evidence, like videos of alien bodies that can't be debunked, or a pathologist or somebody who autopsied one of those aliens coming forward and showing us the reports and the pictures and tissue samples. I mean real evidence that can stand up to scrutiny. And by the way, while we're on these topics, I just want to take a moment to say that if this Grusch story comes crashing down as a nothing burger, then that will mean that all of these people that are pushing this like crazy should be banished from this thing forever for pushing such a huge fake story. If it turns out to be fake. If it turns out to be true, I'll cream my pants. So come on, Dave Grusch and all his supporters, come through with some evidence. Don't you want to see Stephen Cambion cream his pants live on the show? I know I do. No, not really. But, you know, this would be a great moment. It would be an amazing moment in human history if we had confirmation of non-human intelligences from other dimensions or other planets visiting Earth. It would be world-changing, in my opinion. Now, some people think that nothing would change. People still go to work the next day. Largely, nobody would care if that confirmation. I'll care, right? Yeah, Sheila Alien says, I think we'd love to be wrong on this. Yeah, I'd love to be wrong, but there's an awful lot of red flags there, not the least of which is that this guy is closely associated with all the people who brought us the TTSA scam and lies, right? They misled everyone for years. And if you can forgive them and jump right on this next train that they've pushed out of the station, good for you. I'm not so forgiving. Remember that saying, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. This will be twice that this whole TTSA gang has put out completely misleading, completely false stories in order to sell a narrative and, I suppose, make money. And another huge red flag for me is that apparently Mr. Dave Grusch already has a documentary deal. That's a red flag. The guy didn't even come out yet. He had a documentary deal as of May 15th, maybe sooner. So is this and you know, there's a lot of possibilities here. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a whole video on him having autism. I'm the father of a nonverbal autistic child. I've spent years researching autism. I see all these jokers chiming in on Twitter that don't know anything about autism. So when I have time, I'm going to be making a video just about him having autism, the possible implications. And there are implications because there are studies that have been done that even people with, you know, not so severe autism are easily misled, and they believe what people are telling them without scrutiny sometimes. So could that be a problem for him? Yeah. And I just want to say that if it turns out that a bunch of the TTSA crew have manipulated a person with autism so that they could continue to sell a fake narrative that they've been selling since 2016, that's despicable. If that is the case, we haven't determined that yet. I will say this, the next 6 months are going to be very interesting because if no evidence comes and no confirmation comes, what are the true believers going to do next? They're going to dox everybody who says the story is not true. You know, it's ridiculous. But I, for one, kind of wish I could fast forward the next 6 months just to see what happens. Is this story ever gonna, is there ever going to be any evidence, or is this going to be another nothing burger like Ross Coulthart promising? You know, that's another thing. Remember, the last big story of Ross Coulthart was him promising conclusive proof of alien technology when he had no evidence, nothing. Not only did he not have conclusive proof of alien technology, he had no proof of alien technology. And I get it. There was even somebody in a live chat. The only person who says Ross Coulthart is a disgraced journalist is Steve Cambion. No, go look at Media Watch. They called him a disgraced journalist, essentially, which is the source that I use to determine that he's a disgraced journalist. When he sold that fake story about the British government, his contract was not renewed. There was big controversy because that was a huge story, and that story turned out to be 100% fake. Then we fast forward a little while, he jumps into the world of UFOs, and he is pushing a story about, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology. He had no proof. That was the second 100% provably fake story. And I'm sorry, if a so-called investigative journalist has been caught pushing two huge 100% fake stories, and then he's attached to Dave Grusch, that's a huge red flag that the whole story might be bull. I'm sorry. And if you disagree, good for you. I hope you're happy when disclosure comes or whatever. And eye cream in my pants, right? Yes. Amy Collins says, when you have a documentary plan before you have avoided whistleblower sanctions before Congress, what does that scream to your mind? Yeah, that's a big red flag. Big red flag. Stanton Friedman passed away and devoted his life to this topic, and he got no conclusive answers from officials. I'm betting we won't either. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we won't either. And that reminds me of one other bit of business, and that is we accept PayPal pledges, and you can send whatever you like. And the instructions to do that are in the description of the video if you'd like to support the show. Okay. Oh boy, we have such nice people here. So we want to thank North for a kind and generous $50 PayPal. They know who they are, don't want to be named. We want to thank David for a kind and generous $5 PayPal. From David B. Praising the cash, make it so, he says. Yes, thank you, David, for helping us to praise the cash. We want to thank Gemma for a kind and generous, one second, let me look at that, for a kind and generous $2 PayPal pledge. No message. Be sure if you send a PayPal pledge to just add a note. There's a little button you can add a note, and then give us your message that you'd like us to share on all of, you'd like us to shout out to you, and we will do that. And we have a very kind and generous $20 PayPal pledge from Christina, who says, thank you for all you do. Praise the cash. Christina D. from California. Well, thank you for helping us, Christina. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we've got another $50 PayPal from North. They know who they are. Love the show, brother. The Sarah Adams episode was great. She's pretty hot. Okay. Love how you danced around that. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, North. We appreciate your kindness, your generosity of all of you people. Thank you all for helping us to praise the cash. Mike, yeah, the gold color. My son was a non-speaker. Day one, he spoke, blew my mind. Yeah, for those unaware, I say my son is nonverbal autistic. He does speak, but he has, a very, very limited vocabulary. Mostly, he requests food, popcorn, chips, tea. He likes tea is his word for all drinks, and then we have to kind of clarify, like show him 3 drinks. Does he really want the tea, or does he want fruit punch, or does he want lemonade? So he speaks a little bit, but it's very limited. His vocabulary is extremely limited. He will say things like bed, shower. He likes showers. That's one of his favorite things. He has sensory issues like many children with autism, and a shower will calm him down when he's very agitated. Something about that sensory input of the water splashing all over his body. In any case, he's nonverbal, but he does say some things. And he says mom and dad occasionally, which always makes us smile. He says brother. He knows his brother, and his brother's name Xavier, he says. But mostly his requests are for food. He's real big on saying eat. And eat means he wants a meal, not a snack. He says snacks occasionally, but mostly his vocabulary is centered around his, wanting a snack or wanting food or wanting to eat or wanting to go to bed. But it's that limited, And for those unaware, he does have speech therapy every day, and we have all kinds of therapists, and we have all the help and support that he could possibly get. His mother is an incredible advocate. He's got everything that we could possibly do for him. We have done to try to improve his quality of life. Mostly, I think that I've settled on the fact that all I can do is love him and help him to be happy and healthy. And he's sure happy a lot, but he's pissed off a lot too, and that's kind of difficult to deal with. As somebody who grew up Catholic, as I got older, my belief now is that everything is random, and some people have good luck and others bad. Any evidence you can point me towards to regain faith? Well, Michael, I have been studying exorcism and demonology extensively these past few months, and I don't know, there's something about some of those cases of exorcism that have reignited my own faith. Obviously, if that's real, the rest has to be real. And I always like to tell people that are really into the alien topic that there's much more supportive evidence that demons are real and angels are real than there is supportive evidence that aliens are real. There is many different exorcists that give lectures. There's many that are public now. We've interviewed one here. I'm going to try to interview some more here. there's some pretty compelling evidence. I can't discount some of the evidence of demonic possession. And therefore, if we see that the dark side is real, then maybe the light side is real as well, right? All right. So comments or questions for me, please put them in all capital letters so that I know it's something I'm supposed to share, because occasionally we love the little cash clown. You have all of our support. But just to be clear, the cash clown is my younger son. He is unaffected by autism. It is my older son, who has never been on the show or cared to even know what I do, I think. He's the one with autism, the 11-year-old. My younger son, Xavier, who does the cash clown stuff, is unaffected by autism. But he is a great brother to his handicapped brother. So, and by the way, we want to take a moment to thank all of you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. This is a viewer-supported show, so the only way we can continue is if you guys help us to praise the cash. So we thank you, Twitch subscribers. We thank you, YouTube channel members, you Patreon supporters, you super chatters, super sticker purchasers, super thanks people. Did you know that? You can hit the thanks button and throw us a few bucks, even if you're watching a replay, and that will help. And we thank you, PayPal pledgers, as well. We thank everybody for their kindness, generosity, and support and helping us to continue this journey. The only way we get to continue is by praising the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. So, Wes Snipes, is there any real footage of demonic possession and exorcism? Yes, but that's where it gets complicated. There is some footage of exorcisms. However, the Catholic Church does not allow, generally, there's some exceptions to this rule. There's a man named Father Amorth who was famous for, he was the Vatican's major or main exorcist. And they allowed somebody to film a portion of one of his exorcisms once. And there's a few other bits and pieces that you will find scattered around, but generally they don't allow the filming of it to protect the privacy of those involved. But there is some footage. Unfortunately, there is also a lot of footage from, let's just say, less than credible non-Catholic exorcists. And for those unaware, there are many Christian faiths that will not deal with exorcism, or they're just not good at it or experienced with it. In the famous case of the Exorcist movie, it's actually about a real-life exorcism that happened to a little boy. That little boy, I believe his family was Lutheran or some form of Protestant. So they bring the minister, and the minister sees the demonic manifestation of this child and instantly tells the family, we can't deal with this. You have to get a Catholic priest. There is an incredible long history and tradition of Catholic priests exorcising demons. And I have a friend who's a Christian pastor, and he told me, if I ever encounter some person that I thought was truly demonically possessed, I would go and find a Catholic priest to help them. And I said, really, but what is it about Catholicism? And he said, they have all of the best information. That Vatican archive. There's a lot of stuff about demons, demonology, how to deal with demonic oppression, possession, and all of that in the Vatican archives. And the Catholics they have much more information on this. So for one reason or another, the Catholics do have sort of the best methods of dealing with these situations. Unfortunately, there are some sort of evangelical or non-denominational so-called Christian ministers. There's one in particular whose name escapes me at the moment. He made a career out of sensationalizing him exorcising demons. And there's a lot of footage of him, but I think that's all hokey and a joke. It's not real. These people that he is supposedly exorcising of demons aren't really possessed. They don't show. The Catholics have a very good system now in place. They make somebody undergo a medical evaluation, a psychological evaluation, and they eliminate all other possibilities. Before an exorcism by a Catholic priest actually takes place, they eliminate all other possibilities. Can't be something neurological, can't be something physical, it can't be, because way back in the day before people knew better, they would exorcise people that had Tourette's syndrome or exorcise people that were schizophrenic or mentally ill. Now they're much more careful. My point is, I'm sorry, getting off in the weeds. So there's a lot of footage of exorcisms, but most of what you see is from that one guy who's he's sort of a redheaded guy. He even brought his daughters into the scam, and they were going to get a reality show exorcising demons. There's footage of exorcisms, but the only good footage of exorcisms of people that are probably truly demonically possessed is from the Catholics. If so the Ethiopian church, or I should have said this, the Ethiopian, the Orthodox, and the Catholic Church all are very skilled in dealing with demonic possessions. The Ethiopian church also has a tradition going back centuries, and especially in the Orthodox Church as well. So the Protestants don't seem to be able to deal well with it. A friend of mine who is a minister, he will deal with blessing houses, or if people are having let's just call it slight problems that they feel may be demonic, he will go and bless a house, but he won't deal with a person that is possessed. He has a contact nearby him that is a Catholic exorcist that he will call. And he has at least once called the Catholic priest in to deal with the case, because he just says, we're not prepared for this. We just don't know how to deal with it well. And the Catholic Church has a rite of exorcism. It is in writing. It's the Roman Rite. I have a copy here. And apparently, if you follow that Roman Rite, it is successful. We're going to do a whole show on this. I know there's a lot of interest. I'm trying to get and line up multiple exorcists, because one of the things that I found interesting when I was researching it is that some of these Catholic priest exorcists that are now becoming, let's just call them media personalities as well, they contradict each other. And so, so I'm having for example, several of these Catholic exorcists that I've heard in interviews have said things like, you're not supposed to converse with the demon at all. And then there's another well-known Catholic priest exorcist who's become a media personality, who he talks in very detail in interviews about things that the demons told him. And so I'm left confused going, this one's having conversations with the demon about theology, or about the Blessed Mother, and about sort of the fall of the angels from heaven. And, he's like interviewing the demon about theological questions he has. And meanwhile, the other exorcists are saying, you're not supposed to speak to the demons at all. And remember, they are demons. They're deceivers. So why would you believe anything they said? It gets very complicated. We have to do a separate show on this stuff. Yeah, you may think that, Bambino. I think if you see the presentation I'm preparing, you might change your mind. There are some real evidences of something supernatural, or I know one priest who prefers the term preternatural instead of supernatural. I'm not sure what the distinctive difference between those two is, but this is why Whitley Strieber called his book Communion. They are spiritual in nature, Hundreds of abductions have stopped in the name and authority of Jesus Christ. That you were correct on. There is an awful lot of people who were in the middle of an alien abduction who called on the power of Jesus and asked Jesus to save them. And as soon as they did that, the whole event stops instantly. That's an interesting phenomenon to explore. Catholics created that shield. Of course, they have all the info. Yeah. Yeah. And they also have a lot of, let's just say, weapons in their arsenal, because apparently demons do not like relics, holy, sacred relics. Who has all the relics? The Catholic Church has all the relics of Christianity. And that's a whole nother story. We could get into that too. Yeah. The moment any of these supernatural arts become mainstream, the lies and contradictions begin. Yeah, I could see that. And Amy Collins says, I will sit tight until I get green pea soup analysis from a third-party laboratory. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Adaptable says, this is why these aliens keep coming from further and further away. They lie. As we look with our technology, nope, it's not the moon. Nope, not on Mars. Good point. Now they're in Zeta Reticuli. Yeah, could be. They're adaptable. I mentioned that I mentioned the Christian minister friend of mine. He believes that all of this UFO and alien stuff is demonic in nature and that they are deceiving people. And that is just as good a possibility as these things come from space, right? Who knows? Yeah. Gooby Boxon says, invoking his name will also stop alien abductions, or so I've heard. Yeah, there's been multiple people who have made that claim. Yeah, relics are a whole show, Patty. Yeah, because a lot of them aren't real. There's a lot of problems with these relics, just like there's a huge problem with Catholics claiming incorruptible bodies. We just had a new case of a so-called incorruptible body. But what you find out later when you really look into the Catholic claim that this body doesn't rot, so they must have been a saint, it's fake. A lot of these bodies that are out there on display are like wax masks on top of a skeleton or skeletal remains. That's not an incorruptible body then. It did rot, and you guys just slapped a wax front on the guy's face and some wax hands on his bone hands, and you put him in a glass case to make money. I have a big problem with that one. Michael says, I hear something like, if you never encounter anything demonic in your life, it means the devil already knows he has you, so he doesn't have to tempt you. Have you ever heard this? Yes, Michael, and there's also a concept of graces. Michael, you or me or everybody has a certain amount of grace from God. And the devil and demons, they are opportunists. So they look for people with weakness. And if you are a person of grace who, prays a lot, has a good relationship, harder time with you. So they tend to avoid people that are in a state of grace. Whatever that means. To the Catholics, that means you have to go to church every week, and you have to go to confession, and you have to get the Eucharist and all these different things. To others, it just means that you have a good relationship with God and that you are attending to your spirituality on a routine basis. So, somebody who is on the side of God and praying daily has much less of a chance of encountering demons or the devil than people who aren't. At least that is the belief. Other people's opinions may vary. Willowy 13 says, as a Christian, I'm just happy we could say Jesus' name without the vain thing. Last time I used it, I had a very strange dream. I called out for Jesus in it. I woke up. Well, that's interesting. Revelations 16:13, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Yeah. A lot of people believe that the Antichrist will be just a possessed human. Who knows? It could be. But we will, I promise you, we're doing a whole show on demons, demonology, exorcism, the whole dark side of spirituality. I've been working on that for quite some time. So hopefully we'll be bringing that to you soon. So we have done our due diligence for today. I want to remind you, we'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got a great show for you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you will be here with us. I want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. I want to thank everybody in the live chat. We had a great attendance tonight. I want to thank everybody in all the chats, the Rumble chat, the Facebook Live feed, the Twitter feed, the Twitch feed, the Rumble feed, and the YouTube feed. Thank you all for being here. We want to thank our wonderful guest, Mr. Kiviat. Hopefully he'll be back soon when he's finished some of these film projects. And we want to thank all of you for joining us. I'll be back, like I said, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, friends, that's all I got for you for tonight, but I will be back tomorrow night. I hope you'll be here with me as well. Good night, and God bless all of you.